You're listening to WHBJ Digital Talk from the 412. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to keep it brief. Welcome to WHBJ Digital Talk. I'm your host, Hutch Bailey Jr. in the broadcast studio in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We've got a heck of a show for you tonight. Heck of a lineup for you. But first, I want to talk real quickly. We're sending Mona to CPAC tomorrow. We were able to raise $200 last night, and then I decided that I'm going to take a portion of the patronage, and I added another 100. We need a couple more fazools, ladies and gentlemen. A couple more. PayPal.me/Hutch Bailey Jr. BAILIE. PayPal.me/Hutch Bailey Jr. to get Mona at least a couple meals, folks, you know. All right, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of your time. You want to listen to the content that we have available. Very glad to have the Dan Adams Show, the DA, the prosecutor. You know him. Also, we have Roderick Threats and the Black Patriot Show. That's going to be a good one. And at the last minute, ladies and gentlemen, we picked up UK true crime. We're going to talk about the troubles in Northern Ireland later on this evening. Please visit MadisonRising.com. What an outstanding group. I love the fact that we open the day's broadcast with Madison Rising's rendition of the national anthem and close it with the First Lady's Lord's Prayer. Let's go right to the shows, ladies and gentlemen. Dan Adams, fellow Pittsburgh radio producer, outstanding. The political heat comes to mind, but we call him the DA, the prosecutor. Dan Adams, ladies and gentlemen, on WHBJ.
Greetings and salutations, and welcome to another edition of the Dan Adams Show. It's yours truly, Masters of Ceremonies, Dan Adams, a.k.a. Social Conservative, the DA, and the prosecutor. And I'm looking to the camera this morning. It is Monday, February 25th, 2019. Let's get over those Monday blues. Let's get over them. Let's get right into it. Let's get over the a-hole segment. Get it right out of the way. Let's just get it done. I'm going to read this to you here. I'm going to read this whole thing because it's pretty good. It's pretty juicy. The a-hole Bill Maher. Okay. So this is the a-hole of the moment. So let's go ahead and read this. Real-time host Bill Maher on Friday derided Middle Americans in red states as envious of their blue state counterparts, which I'm thinking to myself, really? We're envious of our blue state counterparts? In wide-ranging remarks that also included criticism of Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos for not building its headquarters in poorer states. Now, that can be left up to debate. Me and my son was getting into it last night about this. That can be left up for debate. Let me digress and move on. HBO's Marv blamed Bezos for pitting wealthy cities against one another in a real estate battle over where the next Amazon headquarters would be built, while ignoring states that he argued would benefit most from thousands of new jobs. This after a previous deal to build in New York City fell through, which Sandy Ocasio-Cortez and her crew cheered. That's right, they cheered the fact that Amazon pulled their offer to build their headquarters in New York City, which would have brought so much money to the community. But yet, the fact that Amazon was getting tax breaks, no. That can't happen. Looking right you in the camera. That can't happen under this new socialist regime. Okay? No tax breaks. No tax breaks for you. Quote, we have a problem in America called spatial geographic inequality. Let me repeat that. Spatial geographic inequality, which means the most affluent and educated people are clustered in just a few cities, he said. That's interesting. He said there are two Americas, referring states that are historically vote Democratic versus ones that skew Republican. What do you mean skew Republican? Okay, so historically voting Democrat is one thing, but other states skew Republican. Quote, we have orchestras and theater districts and world-class shopping. We have Chef Wolfgang Puck. They, meaning us, have Chef Boyardee. End quote. He continued, quote, the blue parts of America are having a big prosperity party while the big sea of red feels like their invitation got lost in the mail, and they still use the mail. Another dig. He continued. The comedian went on to explain why he thinks red state voters are so pissed off. Quote, listen to this. This is really good. The flyover states have become the passed over states. That's why red states voters are so pissed off. Let me repeat that. The flyover states have become the passed over states. That's why red state voters are so pissed off. They don't hate us. Get this right here, ladies and gentlemen. They don't hate us. They want to be us. What do you mean by that, Bill Maher? I'm going to leave that up for interpretation. They don't hate us. They want to be us. Think about that the rest of the day. All right. Next story off the docket here. Sandy Ocasio-Cortez, quote, this is from her Twitter feed, quote, leadership starts with our choices. That's why I decided that no one on my staff will make less than $52,000 a year. It's likely one of the highest entry-level salaries on the Hill, meaning Capitol Hill. We pinch pennies elsewhere, which is funny. Pinch pennies really after the revelations that we're hearing about your boyfriend and his PAC and funneling money to you? But it's worth every dime to pay a living wage. I'm going to flip that story off to the side. I'm going to let you just think about that one, let that one marinate even more, because Lord have mercy, this woman's talking about a living wage, but yet she wants to tax the rich and us, middle America, 90+% to pay for her Green New Deal. I have a finger that I'm not going to show, but it's underneath here, and you know what finger I'm talking about. All right. Next on the docket. This is funny. This might be the comic relief section of today's broadcast. North Korea's state media criticized U.S. Democrats, that's right, U.S. Democrats, and American intelligence officials on Sunday for chilling the atmosphere ahead of leader Kim Jong-un's second summit with President Donald Trump this week. There's a long, really long, I'm going to give you this, I'm going to show you this here. You got this whole page, and then you got this whole page, which I was going to read, but I'm not going on through that. It's just ludicrous. But ladies and gentlemen, oh my gosh. Kim Jong-un in North Korea criticizing, throwing shade at U.S. Democrats. That right there should make you want to just laugh and giggle and go off in the corner and just be like, if someone you're laughing, like, what are you laughing at? Kim Jong-un in North Korea clapping back and criticizing Democrats. Wow, ladies and gentlemen. Wow. So I'm going to go ahead and play this clip. And this clip has me inspired after what Lara Logan did last week, calling out the media. And this is what she said. This is great. And I'm going to play this clip, read the clip along with it, so you can understand and get the full understanding. Quote, and I am done, right? I am tired of it. And they do not get to write my story anymore. They do not get to speak for me. I want to say, and then loudly and clearly to anybody who is listening, I am not owned. Nobody owns me, right? I'm not owned by the left. I am not owned by the right. Kudos, 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 kudos to Lara Logan. Now, her career might be on a path of no return, but the fact that she stood up, the fact that she has clapped back, not even clapped back, called out specifically the media for their leftist leaning, reporting, broadcasting, and everything else that you can think of. And it's not, like she said, it's not about being owned by the left or the right, because she just said, you know what, that's not how I'm going to roll. That's not how it's going to be. That's not how I go about my business. And she said, you can go read the story on your own. But she's basically saying, hey, I have opinions. I'm human. I lean towards things. But that doesn't make up what I bring to you as far as my reporting. I report on the facts and then leave it up to you to decide where you're leaning in regards to your opinion. Journalism has been dead for decades. And now what journalism is now, ladies and gentlemen, is social media. Because where do you find your news most of the time? Social media, blogs, and anywhere else that you could think of. And then the lamestream, aka mainstream media, jumps on, gets a reporter on the story, and then puts their leftist slant on it. That's what happens, ladies and gentlemen. That's what happens. Now, I'm going to go ahead and move on from this to this. And this should get your blood boiling just a shade.
Jesus Christ. What?
I'm with you. Yeah. Fuck off. You won this fight. I'm with you. Put your hands on me again, motherfucker. Racing for your friends, bitch. Fuck.
Oh, shit.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's what's in UC Berkeley. Charlie Kirk and his TPUSA folk were there. And that was an individual, one of his particular activists at TPUSA, Turning Point USA, assaulted by some jackass. And now we know who he is. Now we know what he's all about. And I don't have his name in front of me, but you can look it up. Very easy. Just look up UC Berkeley, attacker, UC Berkeley. You'll find out, because they finally identified this jackass and they can find him and hopefully arrest his ass. But wow. So we as conservatives can't go onto a college campus and peacefully converse and debate amongst individuals on a campus without some yahoo like this, some jackass like this, and excuse my French, some asshole like this come out of nowhere and punching you in the face. This is where we're at, ladies and gentlemen. And as I look in the camera, this is where we're at in America. You can't speak freely without someone who may have an opposing opinion to what you may be espousing. You got to be on alert to make sure you don't get punched in the mouth. Now, speaking of being punched in the mouth, this is the last segment of today's Dan Adams Show, and I appreciate you checking in, chiming in, listening, sharing, and all that good stuff. And also, right above me, support the show. PayPal.me/Dan Adams 73. Support the show. Whatever you can give will be greatly appreciated. Thank you in advance. This is the topic of this article. I'm not going to read the whole thing. But this should get you to where you need to be on this Monday. And quote, no Christian has any cause to embrace or accept abortion as any other thing. Excuse me, let me make sure I read this correctly and get my repeat. Title and subject of this article. This was on Barbed Wire. No Christian has any cause to embrace or accept abortion as anything other than caps murder. Now, you know where I stand in regards to abortion. And I'm not even going to read this article. I'm just going to speak on it and then let you take it where you need to take it to for today. With these bills that have been passed in New York State, Virginia, and now Vermont. And the one in Vermont, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't checked out and looked at and read, it legalizes all abortion. Anytime, any place, anywhere, by anyone. This is what the law that has been passed in Vermont. So as a Christian, me, as a Christian, you, as a Christian, can no longer accept or embrace abortion as anything other than murder. And with these new bills that have been passed, it is murder, infanticide, and it goes against the teachings of God and our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. So all you Democrats who espouse and claim to be Christians and so still support abortion to this day, you need to get down on your knees right now and repent. And I am going to ask God to forgive you. I am going to pray for you to hopefully that God and Jesus, our Lord and Savior, will enlighten you, will somehow bestow upon you the knowledge and the wisdom and understanding to know that abortion is murder. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for sharing this. When you share it, if you share it, please share it and support the show. This is yours truly, Dan Adams, a.k.a. the social conservative, the DA, and the prosecutor, with another edition of the Dan Adams Show. May God continue to bless you and yours on this Monday, February 25th, 2019. May He continue to protect you and yours. And until next time, God bless. Peace.
Wow, ladies and gentlemen, wasn't it great to hear Dan Adams again? Man, I miss that guy. Great story. And guess what? He dropped another episode right before we went on the air, so we're going to go with that coming up next. I just had a couple notes I wanted to cover. Ladies and gentlemen, as I said, Mona Salama is going to go to CPAC and represent us all. So if there's any way that you can help, we were a little short last night. We managed to raise $200, and I kicked in $100 from our patrons. So if anybody else can help, paypal.me/Hutch Bailey Jr. That's BAILIE. PayPal.me/Hutch Bailey Jr. If you can help us out. Also, let me take a second real quick to recognize the donors from last night. We had 87 people listening at the time, and a few decided to donate. I want to thank Mark for coming in twice, and Norway for a very generous donation, and Rocky, another member of my staff, for another very generous donation. And I want to thank, and some of you are patrons, and I was hoping we could get some help from outside the patrons. But Marlene, thank you. Ken C., thank you. Arthur, thank you, sir. Pamela M., Ginger H., Andrew P., Valerie Z., thank you all so much. As I said, Mark came in there and got busy twice. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate that. Okay, the other thing is, please support our affiliates. You hear, for instance, Dan Adams, paypal.me. Please Support them any way you can, and make sure you contact them. And if you like something that you hear, contact them and keep them here. Let them know that you heard their material on WHBJ. Okay, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, the Dan Adams Show from today.
We are now on air. Time for a total takeover.
It's finally here. Welcome to a new episode.
It's about to go down.
Greetings and salutations, and welcome to another edition of the Dan Adams Show. I'm your master of ceremonies, and I am also the DA, the prosecutor, and the soulful conservative. And this is the Dan Adams Show. It is Tuesday, February. Remember how funny how it was when you first learned how to say the word February? It is February 26th, 2019. It's a Tuesday. Titillating Tuesday, if you want to call it. And for those who are on their way to the 9 to 5, to the place of work, place of business, may your travels be safe. And for all the school children, God, please protect them on their way to learn at some, I'm not going to say all, some indoctrinated facilities across the country. Now, let's go ahead and get right into a couple of topics I want to get into. And the first topic I want to talk about is the North Korean Kim Jong-un, United States of America, President Trump conference, summit, get-together that is happening in Vietnam. And you would know about it, ladies and gentlemen, especially if you were, had your channel changer on the lamestream media, because they are not even covering it. If they are covering it, it's like a half a second. Because with the Trump derangement syndrome and the ever-building hate towards President Trump, they are not going to cover anything positive that President Trump does. And this is another positive marker on the board for one President Donald J. Trump. And when earlier in his presidency, with the whole Rocket Man thing, and everyone thought that World War III was around the corner, but yet he had the wherewithal, the gumption, and the business savvy to have this first summit with Kim Jong-un, and everyone thought it was out of the realm of possibility. That happened. Subsequent actions after that happened in regards to releasing those prisoners, sending back the remains of Korean War fallen, and other things as well. When those sanctions hit North Korea and hit hard, they were looking at themselves and saying to themselves, wow, we have a president of the United States of America that's not playing any games. He's bringing the ruckus, as we say in the hood. And we need to change course. And as many people have said with Kim Jong-un, he is not the nicest person on the planet. We know this. But the man can realize when his pockets are getting hit, and changing course is the only course of action at his disposal. So when this second summit, which is currently happening as I speak, as I just stated, the lamestream media will not cover it like it should be covered. So kudos once again to President Donald J. Trump for making this summit happen. And hopefully, because we don't know, crazier things have happened when summits like this have happened. But we are hoping and praying that positive things come out from this summit. Now, I know one thing that the lamestream media has been talking about, which isn't even going to happen this week, but they are all giddy, or should I say jitty, as one Al Sharpton said on MSNBC, all jitty in regards to the Robert Mueller special counsel report coming out this week, even though everyone on the planet knows it is not coming out this week. But they are still salivating at the fact that the report is coming out. And they're bracing themselves because they know, ladies and gentlemen, they know that no Russian collusion whatsoever will be, it may be spoken on, broached in regards to what this actual investigation was called for. But will there be any, and I mean any, evidence brought forth to support these claims of Russian collusion? No. Because if they were, this report, this investigation would have been wrapped up last year, the year before, blah, 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 blah. So that's what the mainstream media wants to concentrate on, because they're trying to brace themselves. They are trying to brace for the hit that they're going to take in regards to it being a nothing burger, as one communist, self-proclaiming communist black man, Van Jones, said when he was caught on camera speaking to someone. I forgot who caught him on camera, and they were asking about this whole Russia collusion, and he said it's a nothing burger. Well, everyone on the planet, even the Democrats, know it's a nothing burger. But let's go ahead and continue to use taxpayer money, your and I money, you and I's money, okay? Who knows how much money has been spent to this point? And the fact that, and I'm listening to the radio this morning, and the gentleman who was on this particular radio program made an excellent statement, and I'm paraphrasing here, that how in the world can you have an investigation to where your star witnesses are being indicted for things that have nothing to do with the investigation at hand, and were indicted on things that predated what the investigation was brought forth on? So you tell me, ladies and gentlemen, do they have a pot to piss in? Absolutely not. So that's what the mainstream media has been concentrating on, not the North Korea American summit in Vietnam. Because anything positive, anything that could put a win in the win column for one President Donald J. Trump, they will not cover. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to move on to a certain individual who a lot of people feel like individuals who put themselves out there like I do shouldn't talk about this individual at all, because we're just, layering butter on top of the bread. It's one, and I'm not going to say the name that she changed her name to. When I speak of this particular woman, I'm going to speak the name that she was born with. Sandy Ocasio-Cortez and the Green New Deal, and her latest over-the-top statement in regards to the world coming to an end, and the fact that we as human beings should no longer procreate and bring forth offspring, because somehow that, ladies and gentlemen, is causing climate change, is causing greenhouse gases, is causing global warming, is causing the world to end in 12 years. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, having children will cause climate change, greenhouse gases, global warming, and will eventually bring the earth to no longer exist in the eyes of one Sandy Ocasio-Cortez. She is no longer the acronym that people have been calling her. She is now SOC to me, and will always be SOC, because that's her real friggin' name. No one knew of this particular woman before she won that election. No, that primary, I should say. No one knew who this chick was. And then when she actually won the election to become a House of Representative, no one came out to vote. And she, ladies and gentlemen, just by actually being a woman of a certain ethnic background, somewhat light on the eyes, and Lord have mercy, and I mean hashtag Lord have mercy, has gone so far left that the Democrats are now trying to put up an opponent in 2 years to dethrone this woman. She has burst upon the scene and has made waves, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not denying that. But those waves are so jacked up. Those waves are so enveloped with nonsense, nonsensical ideas, maniacal ideas, lunatic ideas in regards to this Green New Deal that she's trying to push. And now she's out there really talking smack towards those who are in opposition, basically saying that no one else is trying to combat the world coming to an end in 12 years like she is. So she has proclaimed herself as the boss. Really, 28-year-old? Really? Really, 28-year-old who no one knew before you somehow splashed on the scene? I want to go back and look at her tweets and her social media and everything else before she won that primary. Did anyone know who the hell she was? Did anyone know that she was out in the trenches trying to bring forth this Green New Deal even though no one knew who the hell she was? Is this a plant, ladies and gentlemen? Is what I'm trying to say. Is she a plant? I don't have any evidence of it. I'm just espousing my opinion. But ladies and gentlemen, when you have a situation where a girl, a 28-year girl who somehow felt that she had or had the gumption to think about needing to change her name from Sandy to Alexandria, excuse me, to somehow, I guess, bring that particular ethnic vote to the ballot box, everyone knowing that who in the hell is this chick? Well, oh, okay, she's running on this. Her name is this, and this is what she's about. That's what catapulted her on the scene. Not her knowledge, not her understanding, and not her wisdom of anything political, anything along the Beltway of D.C. And as we have seen with the outlandish remarks, statements that have come out of that woman's mouth, I'm not saying she's dumb, but she is dumb in regards to politics. Okay? Let's just put that out there. She is very dumb in regards to politics. And knowing certain facts, knowing history, and no one seems to, within her circle, wants to pull her aside and say, hey, you know, you might want to make sure you got your ducks in a row, your facts, your statistics, and things of that nature. You want to make sure you have those at hand's length ready to combat and clap back at anyone who may say, you know what, you just said this, but this is what actually happened. So you won't end up looking like a friggin' idiot on TV, radio, and print. But that is not for me to do. That is not for me to try and implement in regards to her particular run in the House of Representatives. But I just wanted to speak on this whole, and I went on a huge tangent, as you can see. But I wanted to speak on the outlandish statement that she made in regards to procreating, bringing forth offspring, and having children is a contributing factor to climate change, greenhouse gases, global warming, and the end of the world as we know it in 12 years. This is what we're dealing with, ladies and gentlemen. This is what we are dealing with. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in. And I want to end this, and I'm going to disguise this as best as I can but I need to make this known. Some powers that be are trying to silence yours truly. So in order for me to make sure that my livelihood is not affected in any way or jeopardized in any way, I need to somehow go along with a certain way of doing things in regards to how I go about what I do on social media, even though for years up until this point, it hasn't been an issue. But as I said, to make sure that my livelihood is intact, I will do what I have to do to make sure that I bring home the bacon for my family. So you'll see what I mean. You'll see how I go about my business, and you'll know exactly what I mean. So just needed to state that so everyone knows what's going on and why certain things are happening. So until next time, God bless you and yours. May He keep you and your family safe. God bless. Peace.
People keep asking if I'm back, and I haven't really had an answer. But now, yeah, I'm thinking I'm back.
If I said it, I meant it. Bite my tongue for no one, for no one.
She told me her name was Say-You-See. She lives in D.C. She said, excuse me, but can you please pay my rent? I cannot afford my apartment. Come on, girl. She started talking about politics like a socialist. Been for too long, it runs on me, yes. This chick is nuts. She probably rides on the short bus. Smoked a lot of crack. I got hit in the face with a frying pan. Ow! She's borderline retarded, and her brother sees a wag. Don't try to speak with logic, cause she just won't understand. Come on! AOC is not the silver for Congress. Nah! She's just a girl who dances on rooftops. Someone please just make her stop. Stop it, you mean ignorant.
Hey, she's the boss, though.
And I read it and I was like, you know what? I don't care anymore. I don't care anymore. Because, again, I'm at least trying, and they're not. So the power is in the person who's trying, regardless of the success. If you're trying, you've got all the power. You're driving the agenda. You're doing all this stuff. Like, I just introduced Green
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez Cucaracha.
Why? Because no one else has even tried. So people are like, oh, it's unrealistic. Oh, it's vague. Oh, it doesn't address this little minute thing. And I'm like, you try. You do it. Right. Because you're not. So until you do it, I'm the boss. How about that?
You heard it here.
La cucaracha ya no puede caminar porque le falta, porque no tiene dinero para gastar. The little cockroach. I saw him just the other day. I like him best way. He takes his things and he gets his friends and moves away. La cucaracha ya no puede caminar porque le falta, porque no tiene dinero para gastar. The little cockroach, he likes to play up with the band. Up on the Queero, he is a hero. He's got the fastest moving hands.
All right, thank you, Dan Adams. But don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, he also talked about SOC and the Charons.
Our planet is going to face disaster if we don't turn this ship around. And so it's basically like there's scientific consensus that the lives of children are going to be very difficult. And it does lead, I think, young people to have a legitimate question. You know, is it okay to still have children? And I mean, not just financially, because people are graduating with $20,000, $30,000, $100,000 worth of student loan debt, and so they can't even afford to have kids in a house, but also just this basic moral question, like, what do we do? And even if you don't have kids, there are still children here in the world, and we have a moral obligation.
Watch your fingers, Sandy. You're going to chop them off.
For them. And this idea that if we just, you know, I've been working on this for X amount of years, it's like not good enough. Like, we need a universal sense of urgency, and people are trying to like introduce watered down proposals that are frankly going to kill us. A lack of urgency is going to kill us. It doesn't matter if you agree that climate change is an important issue. At this point, it doesn't matter. If you believe climate change is a problem, that's not even the issue. The issue is how urgently you feel we need to fix it. And if you do not have a sense of urgency to try to turn this around in 10 years, how is that different than a person who's just...
You're listening to WHBJ, Digital Talk Radio and History from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm your host, Hutch Bailey Jr. in the WHBJ Digital Talk studio in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Thank you, Dan Adams. Man, I can't say enough. It's great to hear you back in the game, my man. You got talent. And another gentleman that has talent, Mr. Roderick Threats. You heard him on the Chief Report with James Chief, and I did too. And I listened to this guy, and I'm like, wow, I like this material. So I contacted them, and we've added them to the lineup. The Black Patriot show. Mr. Threats is involved in Utah politics, Republican politics in the state of Utah, out of Salt Lake City. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, the Black Patriot. We're going to air about a 36-minute episode, then we'll take a break, and we will be back with a full episode of the Black Patriot and UK true crime. After that, enjoy, ladies and gentlemen.
Two men sit in a car dealership. Pleasantries are exchanged, hands shake, pens sign, wheels spin. In the blink of an eye, one man buys a car, but neither man sold one. What happened? Lexus Plus. Car buying simplified. Click the banner to experience Lexus Plus. See Rorick Lexus.
Destroying the narrative with logic, serving you the facts. This is the Black Patriot Show with Roderick Threats.
Yeah, welcome back one more again. You're listening to another installment of the Black Patriot Show, powered by the Black Patriot Group. As you know, I'm your host, Roderick Threats, and you know I'm going to give it to you right now, unfiltered and all the way straight. This is episode number 84. And some stuff has happened the last 8 hours, 9 hours or so on our federal delegation. The late-term abortion bill, aka the infanticide bill, was blocked today. That count vote was 53 to 44. It's kind of disturbing, right? we have the federal delegation that is supposed to exercise just this one enumerated power they have. Protect the citizens, right? Yet they fail us with this bill. They fail to pass this bill. Still continuing to promote murder. Same thing New York did. There's an individual in New York murdered a young pregnant lady. She lost a child. Obviously, she was murdered, right? But it wasn't a double homicide. It was a single homicide. It's kind of disturbing, isn't it? Virginia's went down the tubes. That didn't go anywhere, which we should be thankful for since they got pushed out of the limelight. But so you know, Virginia's didn't go through. But back to the federal delegation and what they're supposed to be doing constitutionally. Protecting the citizens. Protecting U.S. citizens covered by the 14th Amendment. Because someone goofs up. A damn abortion. Oh, it's okay, we failed. We'll just leave it out on the table. Really? Like, really? If you're not disturbed by now, what's happening? Maybe someone ought to slap you upside your head. I mean, this particular issue, right? This particular issue has turned people that were pro-choice into pro-life. They've said it's gone too far. I agree. This is way too far. There's a line. There's a line we had to accept. Morally, we don't have to accept it. And we keep fighting a good fight. But now, 40 weeks. You have human beings being thrown away like garbage. I'm usually pretty animated over stuff like this, a lot of you know, but I'm not going to stay too animated about it. Because you won't hear a word I'm saying if I get really animated about it. But what I will say is, for someone to not value life, to walk around with a life for 40 weeks and then decide they don't want it, just to do it. And you know, the left, the Democrats are like, well, that's a marginal case. It might be marginal, still doesn't make it right to have that type of option. And that's honest. There is no one with a clear moral center, even atheists, no, you know, people that have no religious affiliation, etc., still believes this is too far. With the fertility rate in the United States as of 2017 being 1.72, when it needs to be 2.1 to replenish the population. That's a problem. I know people want to bring up race into this. I've brought up race before in the abortion debate, but we're not going to go down the race road. Right? It affects Americans as a whole. If we can't reproduce, we can't replenish what we have, passed down what we have, then the country is sure to collapse. Then what ends up happening when we don't replenish our population? We have to raise taxes. Because our tax revenue is gone. Our future generations is our tax revenue. But lo and behold, people just want to outright have sex, carry a life in their midsection, and then decide they don't want it because it's oppressive to them. It stops them from doing what they're doing. It didn't stop you from laying down with that man, letting him get between your legs, did it? And for the men folk, you need to stop laying down between these women's legs if you ain't with them. Point blank. A man can put on a condom just as quick as a woman can take a pill. And we won't have this issue with abortion. It gives me a headache. Makes me upset that people will stop in the middle of the road if they hit an animal and run it to the vet, or an animal on the side of the road giving birth. They will hop up, throw that animal in the back of their car truck, drive it to the nearest vet. But our children, or potential children, don't get the same respect. I'm going to call all these Americans out. You ain't about shit if you value an animal over a human life. And I can say that across the board for everybody. I'm just at a loss of words right now for the whole thing. I don't even know where to go anymore. They say we need to keep fighting the good fight, but we need to do more than fight the good fight. We need a lot more than that. We need a movement. We need a movement that no one has ever seen before, especially when it comes to the regard of human life. But you see what's all going on in this, and I'm gonna twist it a little bit and tie this back in again. I was listening to Shannon Bream here a little while ago on Fox, and she had on Governor Huckabee and some gal that was running for New York City public advocate. And this woman sat right here on national television and said maybe people should think about having kids. because of the climate change. I sat there scratching my head a second. I was like, what? Did they say that at the turn of the century with the climate change? Did they say that then? But they kind of tried to tie this into the Green New Deal, right? We should think about having children because it could put more stress on the environment. So, you want to advocate for your own genocide? Your own collapse? Like, I don't get the logic of these people. Again, if we don't reproduce, we don't have a country in a few generations. America will be a ghost town. We've gotten so selfish. We've gotten so selfish in our age, are evolving as people, the quote unquote woke mentality. Ain't nothing woke about wanting to hurt children. Ain't nothing woke about that. It's ignorant, selfish, and lack of morals is what that is. And then to try to tie the new Green Deal into this. Something that's completely unsustainable. I just don't understand it. And again, to all the advocates of the Green New Deal, get me to understand something here. All right, get me to understand something here. If it's going to cost at the onset $40 to $50 trillion, okay, and we have to tax the people at about almost close to tax families that make over $30,000 a year, almost 100%, and we still couldn't make the money to do this Green New Deal. How are we still going to pay for this? They want to say the 0.1% needs to pay their share. Well, they actually do, but that's an argument for another day. I don't even want to argue that point. Talking about shrinking the middle class, there you go. And people will try to die, it's only 0.1%, to get people not to read it and get on board. But when they read it, they'll realize they're advocating for their own slavery, their own death, their own restrictions of liberty, their own restrictions of freedom. And then what are you going to say about your children? What are you going to say to your children when this happens? What exactly are you going to say to them? Because we're supposed to leave this country like we found it from our previous generations. The fight for life, liberty, and freedom has never been so hard until now. Because everything at every single turn, it's always something drastic they're thrown in people's face. But with that, right, back to the Green New Deal. With that, okay, think about this a second. We have a federally unfunded liability of $151.3 trillion. And you expect us to come up with 30, and we can't even cover the unfunded liability? That we don't know where we're going to get that money from? People don't think They just think money grows on trees. The money for the federal government comes from us. It comes from us. So do we just hand over a whole paycheck to the federal government? Oh, thank you. And that kind of goes back to Bernie Sanders' statement about bread lines being good. Since when? When have bread lines been good? Please, someone let me know. Because we're dependent on the government to be our masters? Yeah, no. I mean, this whole thing, this infanticide thing, Green New Deal, all this leads back to one thing. And that, my friend, is socialism. It leads to slavery. Mussolini wrote in his Fascismo, okay, as you know, that's the basically the fascist manifest, right? He said that individuals will be no longer, because they should be beholden to the state. The state is everything. The individual is nothing. And that's what here they're trying to gear everything towards. And if you haven't noticed it, really open your eyes and pay attention. They're trying to make everybody dependent on the state. Medicare for all, bread lines, the Green New Deal. I mean, I can name a number of things. More taxes. Everything to get the people to uphold the state. Because they don't like the Constitution. They don't like individual liberty. They don't like freedom. And obviously we know they don't like life. Because when was the last time they cared about black people? When was the last time they cared about people in poverty? They talk a good game, but ain't none of them coming through. It's sad and scary. Because the more they push their agenda, more of the middle class comes down to the bottom and competes on the poverty level. And we know what happens when you have areas of stricken poverty. You have high crime, high homicide rates, all in to get you to beg for another system. A system they're trying to push on you, try to normalize on you right now through the media, through these so-called politicians that care about you. Now, folks keep electing these same people in office and ain't nothing changing. Ain't nothing changing. And Dianne Feinstein, I've been in the Senate for 30 years. That's 24 years too long. Let's keep it real. That's what's ruining our country. If you have a senator in your state, that has been in office for more than 12 years, you need to vote them out. They need to go. They need to go. You have House reps that are in office for more than 6 years. They need to go. I say 4 for House reps. They need to go. Because nothing in our government is going to change until we get these old heads out. People don't got too comfortable with our government, and it's a runaway train. It is a runaway train. from the top down, the executive branch, legislative branch, judicial branches, is all a runaway train. But we have to stand up for the good fight, because if we don't, we're going to lose her completely. We've already lost her. But what's left, the moral fabric, the social fabric of America, it's ripping. And we're going to really lose her. We're going to lose her to communist, the complete total left. People think they're oppressed now. Just wait. Just wait. And then later, oh my God, I need help. No, we tried to tell you before. But you weren't listening. They stir up the race nonsense. Look at what Spike Lee did last night on the Oscars. Crying shame what happened. But before I get into that, here's a brief promo.
Are you tired of the same groupthink and want to have your ideas challenged? The Black Patriot Show and theblackpatriot.com is the place for you. It will challenge your intellect and keep you informed. Make sure to subscribe to the newsletter on theblackpatriot.com and subscribe to this podcast on any podcast platform you prefer. Are you ready to be challenged?
All right, welcome back, y'all. Now, Spike freaking Lee, man. I tell you. Talking about being a gatekeeper. Talking about being a gatekeeper. And this guy sits here and talks all this trash towards Trump. This is supposed to be a celebratory thing, but obviously we know all the award ceremonies end up being political. And everybody's jumping up and down, oh my God, Spike said the right thing. Do the right thing. And I'm like, this Negro. First of all, the guy that made the movie Jungle Fever, and it was to knock interracial relationships. Isn't that the same thing the Klan did back in the late 1800s, all the way through pretty much all of the 1900s? Is it not? He talked about staring at interracial couples like he's throwing daggers at them. Then he makes another racist movie, The Black Klansman, like it's supposed to be funny. That stuff is really not funny. It's not funny at all. It's not even a lick of funny. You have a proven racist on that stage. And everybody applauds him. Then he gets mad because the Green Book wins Best Picture. He goes into a tirade, I heard. Like, really? Are you serious right now? But this is their narrative. And they want to talk about white supremacy. They want to talk about the white man this and the white man that. I don't think Spike Lee thought about the fact that if the country, the government were white supremacists, he wouldn't be able to stand his black ass on that stage and say what he said. Now, would he? If white supremacy was so rampant in this country, his narrow black ass would not have been able to stand on that stage and said what he said. I mean, really let that soak in a second. But then again, he was talking to a bunch of people that hate white people too. And they were even white. Imagine that. I mean, he was in a whole room full of white supremacy. It just baffles me, some of these people's thinking, their logic. But you see what's going on, right? They're getting black people fired up. People like Spike Lee taking on the racist rhetoric, the white racist rhetoric, putting it on Front Street, selling it like hotcakes. Black America is jumping on board and don't realize they're going to be at the forefront, the foot soldiers for any type of civil war. While these white liberals and black elites just sit back and watch it all go down. And that shit's not cool. And I don't see Republicans standing up and saying, hey, whoa, hold on a minute. Republicans don't even want to touch the race issue. They expect people like me, people like Sonny Johnson, people like James Chief to truly address the race issue. And it's not up to us only to do it. We can only do it so far. But really, the racism is pointed at the GOP in general. But I don't see any of them out here talking to the minority community, talking to the inner city. I don't see them doing that. You want to change the race narrative? The GOP needs to step up. Because the GOP needs to realize that the lens is on them. The lens is on them this election cycle, because all of these young black conservatives have either flipped from the Democrat Party. They're still kind of vulnerable because they're not deep rooted into conservatism. You know, they still need guidance from us old folk if they will listen. You know what I mean? And if the GOP doesn't take this advantage, only thing it's going to do is solidifies the left narrative that conservatives and the GOP are racist. Everybody likes the idea of life, liberty, and freedom. All of them do. But if you're not down there preaching it to them, getting them to understand it, they're not. They're going to vote the other way. They're going to think the GOP doesn't care about them. And the Democrats come in and swoop those votes up. Oh, they're not going to do nothing for you. They're a bunch of racists anyway, and they want to take all your money. Meanwhile, the Democrats are pickpocketing you as they're talking to you. And that's straight up. That is straight up. So this be a test for the GOP to see if they get on board. And they talk to these people to get them out the vote. We'll see. The nonsense has to stop. It has to stop somewhere, some way, somehow. Really does. And we have to start holding everybody accountable from Trump all the way down. To change our country from the way it is to the way it was. And make it better from that point. I'm not hoping for a better past to solidify a future in the present. I'm looking to, we have gone wayward, way wayward away from our values, and we've allowed it to happen. And now we have to work like the devil to shift her back. Shift this ship back on the right course. So our children can enjoy the life, liberty, and freedom that we have. And it's one day at a time. One day at a time. Make sure you're getting on the horn with your representatives on every level, local, state, federal delegation, and tell them how you feel about the issues. Some way it's going to change. Be the change. Don't watch the change, be the change. And if you're any doubt on how to do that, you can always feel free to reach out to me at info@theblackpatriot.com. You can reach me on social media, all that. But be that pillar. Be that pillar in your community that stands up for life, liberty, and freedom. That's another episode of the Black Patriot Show. Make sure you connect with me on social media. Roderick Threats, RODERICKTHREATS. Roderick Threats is my handle. Make sure you check out theblackpatriot.com. Don't forget to sign up for the newsletter to receive updates. And lastly, make sure you subscribe to this podcast on iTunes. Make sure you leave a 5-star rating and a comment, iHeartRadio, or your preferred podcast platform. Until next time, in liberty and in His grace, God bless you, God bless your family, and God bless America.
Two men sit in a car dealership. Pleasantries are exchanged, hands shake, pens sign, wheels spin.
WHBJ Digital Talk from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, home of Cold War Radio. You can listen live 8 p.m. Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays.
Would you like to voice your patriotism without the threat of being censored or shadow banned? Would you like to contribute to wounded veterans but don't know how? Would you like to communicate with like-minded conservatives without being trolled? If you answered yes, then Red Elephant, rdelephant.com is for you. Red Elephant is the new social media platform that will not censor or shadow ban you, and a portion of your sign-up fee goes directly to the Wounded Warriors Project. rdelephant.com.
One America News Network, your leading source for the latest breaking national and international news. With nearly 4 times as many headlines as the other networks. Straight news, no speculation, no opinion, just the facts. Complete coverage 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. One America News Network, your source for credible news.
Hello, I'm Julie Candler with the BBC News. Results counted in Nigeria's presidential election indicate that Muhammadu Buhari has won a second term in office, commanding a clear lead over his main rival, Atiku Abubakar of the PDP. The PDP is dismayed and had called for a halt to the counting and release of results, alleging electoral fraud. Tommy Oladipo reports.
President Muhammadu Buhari secured 15 million votes, putting him more than 4 million ahead of his main rival, Atiku Abubakar. Initial results indicated high voter turnouts in the north, from where Mr. Buhari has received the bulk of his votes. But the national turnout figures look to have been the lowest since the country's return to democracy 20 years ago. The opposition People's Democratic Party alleges some figures were incorrect, but the ruling All Progressives Congress dismissed these claims. Nigeria's Electoral Commission will review any alleged discrepancies before announcing the final results and declaring the winner.
A British government report has warned that if the UK leaves the EU without a withdrawal agreement, the impact is likely to be severe in a number of areas. Here's Andrew Walker.
The British government's preference is to leave the EU with an agreement which would ensure that trade relations are unchanged while the long-term relationship is negotiated. But no agreement has been concluded, and what's called a no-deal Brexit would have important consequences for businesses trading with the EU. Some would face tariffs, 10% for cars and as much as 70% for beef, for example. Others would have regulatory barriers and customs procedures to deal with. The report says there's also a risk of shortages of some types of fresh food. It says the lack of preparation by many individuals and businesses is likely to add to the disruption.
A Russian military court has sentenced a former intelligence officer and a cybersecurity expert to long jail terms for treason. The men, Sergei Mikhailov and Ruslan Stoyanov, were accused of passing sensitive information to the United States, possibly including details about Russian hacking. President Trump's former lawyer Michael Cohen has begun testifying before U.S. senators, with reports suggesting that over the next few days he'll present evidence of alleged criminal conduct by the president. Jane O'Brien reports.
For the next 3 days, lawmakers will have the opportunity to question the man who once said he'd take a bullet for Donald Trump. Now Michael Cohen is expected to offer evidence that, before he became president, Mr. Trump directed hush money payments to women who claimed they'd had affairs with him, a violation of campaign finance law. Cohen has already pleaded guilty to his own involvement in the payments and implicated the president during the trial. He also admitted in a separate case lying to Congress about plans to build a Trump Tower in Moscow. He is scheduled to start a 3-year prison sentence next month.
BBC News. The United States says it will push this week's UN Security Council meeting to adopt a resolution demanding that humanitarian aid be allowed into Venezuela. Washington called the UN meeting days after Venezuelan troops drove back US aid convoys from the Colombian border. Nida Taufik reports.
Washington is directly challenging President Maduro's decision to block aid requested by opposition leader Juan Guaido. Special Representative Abrams said President Maduro was politicizing aid by providing benefits to his supporters while ignoring the neediest. But Russia and China, allies of President Maduro, are likely to veto the American bid to demand that aid be let in. Moscow's UN ambassador Vasilina Benzier accused the United States of trying to destabilize Venezuela.
President Trump and the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un are just hours away from their second summit, this time in the Vietnamese capital Hanoi. The North Korean news agency says Mr. Kim was briefed by officials engaged in working-level talks with their American counterparts after he arrived in Vietnam on Tuesday. The agency described the summit as historic. The European Court of Justice, the top court in the European Union, has ruled that meat cannot be labelled as organic if it comes from animals that are slaughtered according to religious rites without being stunned first. The case was brought by an animal welfare organisation. Our Europe regional editor, Danny Eberhard, has more details.
The ruling is binding across the EU. The ECJ said scientific studies had shown that pre-stunning helped reduce the suffering of animals that were being killed. Consumers, it said, needed reassurance when buying foodstuffs with the EU's organic label that the highest standards of animal welfare had been applied, including during slaughter. The welfare organisation hailed it as a landmark decision.
BBC News.
I just think he ought to be honest with the American people and try to win as the real Mitt Romney.
Meet the real Mitt Romney. Who is the real Romney?
No one really knows who the real Mitt Romney is.
He's an enigma, and he's a dad and a family man.
Who is the real Romney?
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States.
Can I have your attention, please? Can I have your attention, please? Will the real Mitt Romney please stand up? I repeat, will the real Mitt Romney please stand up? We're going to have a problem here.
Y'all act like you haven't seen a Mormon before. George, down on the floor. I'm not concerned about the very poor. Got it wrong. Sorry, that's not what I meant. I want every American to be in the top 1%. I'm really named Willard. That's my first name. I'm not looking for a colony on the moon, just for someone to blame. I like being able to fire people.
I'm Newt Gingrich.
You're fired.
I'm Rick Santorum, and I'm fired.
Boom, boom, boom.
Conservative women love Mitt Romney.
And I love cars. I love lakes. I'm running for office, for Pete's sake. With regards to abortion, pro-life, pro-choice, I firmly believe in my own singing voice. For purple mountains' majesty above the fruited plain.
Where are we at, John?
With regards to abortion, you can choose your own adventure. It's a Republican dimension. And I'm more concerned about the banks. They're unable to lend. Corporations are people, my friend. My dog is on the roof. My dog is on the roof.
Who let the dogs out?
Understand, I'm an exception to the Obama contraception. Not a vulture. I'm an eagle. I'm going to get my lawn cut by illegals. There will be an influx of Hispanic voters in trucks. Look, if you don't believe, I'll tell you what, $10,000? Well, I made a lot of money. Matter of factually. So I drive a couple of Cadillacs, actually. I have emotion.
In every Chevrolet showroom across America, more and more people are looking at the car that's just out and just wonderful. The 1957 Chevrolet. Some are looking at Chevrolet's daring new front-end styling, the bold new grille, big, beautiful sloping hood. Some are looking at Chevy's handsome new rear end with high-fashion fenders and fresh new design. Everyone's enthused about the new color-fashioned interiors and the sleek command post instrument panel. And the biggest news of all, Chevrolet's fuel injection, the greatest engine advance.
You are on WHBJ Digital Talk.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to WHBJ Digital Talk. We have another episode coming up right now of the Black Patriot Show. Let's do it.
Using an overpriced trash bag.
Pricey, pricey, pricey.
A bag that
Okay, so you have to put up with the Spreaker
smelly bag.
commercials, but that's just how we roll.
To switch to
Coming up soon.
strong trash bags, always at an ultra low price.
Hefty, hefty, hefty.
They're our best bags yet, and they cost less than Glad Force Flex were sold head to head. So you'll be
happy, happy, happy.
Hefty Ultra Strong with Arm & Hammer odor control. Available at Sam's Club.
Hefty, hefty, hefty.
Destroying the narrative with logic, serving you the facts. This is the Black Patriot Show with Roderick Threets.
Happy Sunday, everybody. We're back one more again for another installment of the Black Patriot Show, powered by the Black Patriot Group. As you know, I am your host, Roderick Threets, and you know I'm going to give it to you right now, unfiltered and all the way straight. This is episode number 83. And today I'm going to have my new contributing editor to the blackpatriot.com, Miss Kel Champlin, on the show. Y'all know her as SC Smartass on Twitter, which at this present time is defunct for undetermined amount of time, but it's all good. But she's here with me, and we're gonna talk about this crazy stuff going on out here with this darn MAGA hat. So before we get into it, I'm gonna go ahead and bring Miss Kel. Miss Kel, how you doing today, ma'am?
I'm doing great. How about you?
You know what? I'm triggered right now.
Oh Lordy! Don't say triggered. Oh my word! I'm going to have to beat you up about the head and shoulders over that one.
I'm triggered right now. I'm triggered right now because people want to take away people's freedom of speech and expression. Yes, I am triggered when it comes to the Constitution. Anybody steps on anybody's constitutional right, I am ultimately triggered. You want to trigger me? Subvert the Constitution.
Absolutely.
And you have never seen nobody. You think the left is PO'd right now about this MAGA hat? Oh, no. Don't get me started. Don't get me started. And that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
I mean, this whole the MAGA hat, and Alyssa Milano started this nonsense, right?
Gee, we have her to thank for this? Lovely.
Yeah, the MAGA hat is now the new white hood.
I'm sorry, folks, but it's not. It really is red, for crying out loud. It's not a white hood. And it has absolutely nothing to do with what the KKK did. Good Lord, what are these people thinking?
I know. And see the route I'm going to go down with it, right? Because and we've talked about it before, and my listeners have heard me talk about it before, the concept of ideological subversion, right? And the 4 steps of ideological subversion, and we'll hit all of those, right? But so folks know, the 4 steps, right, is the first step is demoralization. The second step is destabilization. The third step is crisis. Okay. And the fourth step is normalization, right? So we'll get into the first step of this and apply the MAGA hat situation, to apply it to this method. And you guys will see how we bring this about, and see how the enemy of the MAGA hat, and which are enemies of the Constitution, and I'll call y'all out right now. You're enemies of the Constitution. Okay, you're enemies of individual rights. Okay, and we'll show you how brainwashed and how corrupted you have been all these years. Now, I'm not looking for to be your Captain Save-A-Ho. Let's get that right now. I won't be your Captain Save-A-Ho, but I'm going to throw the facts right in your face and let you see for yourself you have gone off the cliff. So let's go ahead and slide into this, right? The first step, as I mentioned before, is demoralization, right? And we have, I'm going to say, this hat situation. And Angela Rye goes on CNN a little while ago and talks about this whole MAGA hat thing, whatever, right? But I'm going to let y'all be the judge of this clip with Angela Rye.
I've never seen a man in elected office, let alone the presidency, dissemble, divide, misstate, and lie as often as this president has. So the idea that he's offended by things that aren't accurate, it's a little hard to believe.
Well, and not only is it hard to believe, it's hard to accept. I wish that for one moment, right, we can talk about what we see, because people are talking about, well, you know, what is happening right now as a result of what happened in this particular incident is our varying perspectives, and I think that's such a powerful point. Like, forget Donald Trump for a moment and just think about the symbol of that red hat. When I see the Make America Great Again hat now, Chris, I am triggered. I'm so triggered. Andre, I think in a lot of ways our friendship has been compromised by the fact that you continue to support this man. The one thing I will say to you, to be absolutely fair, is more than anybody else that I know on this network, you will regularly take Donald Trump to task. I don't agree with you on this last point, but this Make America Great Again hat is just as maddening and frustrating and triggering for me to look at as a KKK hood. Like, that is the type of hatred that his policies represent. And until we can have common ground and understanding about that, that it's that triggering, we're going to continue.
Okay, my question is how do you have common ground with someone who has no common sense? Because that is flat out no common sense.
Well, apparently she cashed in her cents for dollars.
I hope it was a lot.
Apparently it's not enough.
An awful lot.
She's on CNN. It ain't too much. It ain't too many.
Evidently not.
No, but this is what I'm talking about, right? Now it's really spread out, right? So now we're demoralizing people that wear a MAGA hat, right? And calling them and slandering them, calling them basically the KKK.
Yeah, and it's not just that, but she's basically accusing people who wear a certain type of clothing, in this case a hat, of persecuting others. I mean, that's the accusation flat out. She's not making the connection here that they are supporting a sitting president, that this was a slogan, that it's a ball cap, for crying out loud. It's not. Nobody's walking around with a pitchfork and a torch, lady.
No, not really. And to throw the argument back in their face, right? Mm-hmm. A T-shirt of Obama triggers me. Obama is the blackface of white supremacy. That offends me. Now what? Am I wrong for saying that?
No, but you know what? The thing is anytime I saw someone wearing an Obama T-shirt, you know what I did? Or an Obama hat? I rolled my eyes and walked away. That's how easy it is.
Right, exactly.
Or I spoke to them like a normal human being. I just kind of figured they had lost a few marbles along the way. It was one of those things where you vote for who you vote for.
Right.
That is not an insult to anyone else.
No, sure enough in it. That's your personal choice. That's your personal liberty, your personal freedom to vote for who you want. That's why we have the democratic process
you
of
vote your
electing
conscience.
officials. Yeah, exactly.
You vote your conscience. And there was nothing about racism there with Trump. I don't know where the hell they're getting this. I honestly don't. I mean, maybe it was something in his past, but I kind of doubt it.
Yeah, I kind of doubt it. But, the thing is, once again, it's like, they started at the top with this, right? They demoralized Trump, right? They completely demoralized him.
Well, not just demoralized Trump, but at this point, they're demoralizing the people who support him.
Exactly. That's exactly where I'm going.
To. Yeah, they're attempting to.
Right, and they're in the process, they're dehumanizing them, right? Which is promoting this leftist violence that we're seeing right now. Look at the kid at UC Berkeley that got punched for helping peddle conservative ideas on campus. Dude came on Fox with a straight up black eye, and I'm like, are you serious right now? Like, have we gotten to the point? And we talked about this before we came on. Have we gotten to the point that every single conservative needs to arm themselves in case of threats like this? Because me personally, someone comes up to me and tries to fight me or punch me over my beliefs, you better believe this guy is going to have a couple bullets in him. And now I'm not promoting violence, but I'm going to protect me and mine. He's going to have a couple hot ones. And the next person that even tries anything like that, they're going to be scared and on their heels. That's straight up.
It is, and it's actually getting to the point where I think that's coming. Because people are tired of sitting back and having all of this said about them for supporting Trump.
Right.
People are tired of having all of this said about them for being conservative.
Right.
Even if you don't necessarily support Trump as a president, for being conservative.
Right. Yep.
And it's really getting to that precipice where we're literally looking at our toes and seeing the edge.
Yeah, I mean look at what Joseph Stalin did, right? All the right wingers, right? He killed them. He rounded them up. Yeah. They were persecuted, whole 9 yards. Like what's going on right now, and then
it's getting awful close.
Oh yeah.
Excuse me. Allergies, y'all. Sorry about that.
It is. It's getting insanely too close to that point.
It's what I really don't understand is how the media can foment things like this, and that's exactly what they're doing.
Right.
They're putting the logs on the fire here.
Yes. Yes.
I don't know how they're getting away with it.
They're getting by with it because they have liberal privilege, progressive privilege, leftist privilege. That's how they're getting by with it, and the media backs them up. What's stronger? Think about this. The media is, when it comes to the court of public opinion, is the strongest judiciary in our country. It's stronger than the Supreme Court, because as soon as they say, "Oh, this is it," well, guess what? That's it. You know what I mean?
Unfortunately, they're getting backlash from the Chicago PD on the Jussie Smollett thing.
Exactly.
Because it's not what they said it was.
Nope, not at all.
And now they're having to face the fact that they were wrong.
Uh-huh.
And they pushed it, and they pandered it, and they forced it down our throats. Oh, well, it was MAGA hat-wearing thugs. It was people who were trying to beat a poor little gay man on the streets of Chicago.
Right. And any
yes, show me another
knows,
line, lady.
And any idiot knows, and we've had this discussion before too about the demographics of Cook County. I mean, come on, where this guy supposedly was beat up at is pretty much 80% black. So why would some racist, homophobic, white MAGA hat wearing people doing in that part of Chicago, where they probably would have gotten shot at for being white? Okay,
carrying a bottle of bleach around at 2:00 in the morning.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So
I know, and we did discuss this, and I rolled. But the thing is the media has pushed this narrative so far and so hard that they can't afford to back away from it now.
Right. Because
if they back away from it, they've lost their viewers, they've lost their money, they've lost their power.
Right. Exactly. And speaking of CNN, Mr. Cuomo and Don Lemon was talking about this, and y'all got to hear what they have to say about it. Check this out.
You can refuse service. No shirt, no shoes, no service. How is this any different than the baker with the cake? Well, that was about refusing service to a group of people that should be a protected class. Right. And unless you could argue that Trump supporters should be a protected class, I don't think you have much of an argument on that. I don't want to fall into the trap of underselling the significance of the trigger of the expression to people.
Your clothing tells a story about who you are, what you think about, and what you represent. That hat means everything from, I would say, the beginning of the campaign, maybe even before. Maybe that hat means the Central Park Five to people. Maybe it means birtherism to people. Maybe it means, Mexicans are rapists to people.
All right. I need your opinion on that one before I give you mine.
Okay. Let's start with Mr. Cuomo first. No shoes, no shirt, no service is a hygiene issue. Okay?
Yep.
That's pretty standard in any restaurant.
That's health code.
That is. Kind of happens that way, and health codes are regulations, and if you don't like regulations, talk to your government. As far as the hat goes, he never said that all Mexicans are rapists. Some are, and that's being proven out. Never said all of them were murderers. Some are, and that's being proven out as well. That has nothing to do with what they're seeing as a fearsome thing. It's a hat. I mean, come on. Grow up, people.
They need to grow a couple, if you ask me. And
I'd say there are two pair needed in that particular studio at the very least.
I tell you,
it's. Oh, now see, you said triggered before, and now I'm thinking that aggravates me to no end, because now we're to the point where not only are we demoralizing, we're dehumanizing, we're making it to the point of, well, if you happen to wear that hat, you're no longer a human being.
Right, exactly. And as far as like the Jussie Smollett situation, right? That's demoralizing within itself. Now, if you want to talk about taking it to the next level, right? Speaking of the second stage of ideological subversion, destabilization. This is what they're trying to do. Destabilize our society and have people point at that hat like this, like this is it. Even that chef in San Francisco said, we're not going to serve people with MAGA hats because it represents racism. It's a swastika. And I'm like, and when I heard that, I straight up shouted up my mouth in what? Exactly what I said. Like, are you kidding me right now? A swastika. Yeah. So now, again, we're pointing to Trump as being Hitler, which is a complete disrespect to the Jews and the families of the Jews that were deceased during the Holocaust, and the people that lost their lives helping the Jews in the Holocaust, even the German citizens that were killed by Hitler because they were sickly or elderly. It's a complete utter disrespect, and these people don't get it.
No. And what you also need to think about is that it's not just disrespect, okay, to those who suffered under Hitler's regime. It's also dehumanizing them.
Right.
It's taking their story from them and making it unimportant.
But we already know the left doesn't like Jews anyway. So that,
of course they don't.
See?
Of course they don't, because they see them as holding the reins of power and all the money and all this other horse crap.
Right.
No, come on, folks. It's frustrating because I can see it happening, and there's not many people up there standing up and saying, get over it.
Right.
Literally get over it. If you don't like what's going on, then work to change it. And working to change it does not include sitting in a studio at CNN and pontificating that it's bad that somebody wears a red hat with words on it.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. I mean, I just don't, you know what I mean? That's as bad as the Crips and Bloods, right? So Blood sees a Crip, blue flag hanging out. They're going to blow shooting. It's the exact same concept.
It is, and it's almost gotten to that point where you're a Blood if you're wearing a MAGA hat, and you're a Crip if you're not. I mean,
right?
What on earth? We can't be this divided. I don't have any issues when I go over to the grocery store,
right,
or when I go to a restaurant,
right.
We're pretty much a 50-50 county here. I mean, it's not like, black people and white people don't get along because we live side by side.
Right. I was watching a video on YouTube. I think it's Unite America. A couple of black guys that was in Washington to see Trump, etc. And one guy was from not New York, but from California, and he said, "If you walk into a restaurant with a MAGA hat on, they might put some special sauce and seasonings on your food." I'm like,
"Yeah,
what?"
I had heard rumors about that.
I'm like, "Is people?"
And it's not just in California,
right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, is people that demented that they would poison or try to harm someone because they wear a hat?
Yeah, it's gotten that far.
And guess what?
It's not necessarily poison them. It's really gross stuff, some of the things that you hear.
Yeah.
I mean, bugs and everything. No, that's gross.
And the thing is, when Trump is gone, right, and I'm going to call it right now. When Trump is out of office, it's going to escalate further.
Yes, it will. Yep. Especially if we have another conservative president.
Well, it didn't have to be a conservative
And I don't necessarily see Trump as conservative, but you know what I mean. If we have a Republican in office, it's going to get a lot worse.
It doesn't have to be a Republican. It can be a Democrat. See, the thing is, if we get another Republican in office after Trump, then it'll somewhat slow down a little bit. Per se.
I don't think so.
But if a Democrat gets into power, it's full speed ahead in a Lamborghini going down the Autobahn. Yeah. And nobody's going to catch it.
You may have a good point there. You may have a very good point there.
Because the progressives want power so bad right now. Like all the Democratic candidates for president are all progressive. They're not liberal. They're all progressives. That should scare everybody after the agenda they're pushing, after Kamala Harris pushed Senate Bill 488, this anti-lynching nonsense. And people, again, if you don't know about this, me and James Chief talked about that on the podcast a couple of while ago. Go check that out on a Policy Thursday. We talked about the Senate Bill 488, and it's basically making lynching a federal crime. is all they're trying to do. And some other knick-knack, paddywhack, give a dog a bone nonsense they're trying to throw in the dog food there to make you not sift through the dog food and find out what they're really doing. But really, you sit back and think, when was the last time someone's been lynched in the United States? And why do we need such a bill to make it a federal crime? Crime is crime is crime, period. Let the states deal with it.
Well, and like I said the last time we spoke, you can't make murder more illegal. It's already illegal.
Yeah, more illegaler.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. You can't make a gun shooter. You can't make murder illegaler. I mean, it's already there.
Right.
You know?
That's exactly it.
It's there.
Right.
But the whole lynching thing, and the only case that I can remember that came up around here was attempted lynching, and basically what it was a fight between one kid and 5 or 6 others. And what they did to prosecute it so that they could get these guys behind bars was classify it as an attempted lynching.
Right, which was that was all for shock and awe, right?
Yeah, that was so that the court would actually sit up and take notice instead of slapping these kids on the wrist, because all of them were like 17, 18, 19 years old. They were not very old kids. And if I'm not mistaken, it was a mixed group. It was black and white kids.
Right.
But it was called an attempted lynching. That was, oh Lord, I bet it's been about 10 years ago now, if not longer.
You remember the James Byrd case out there in Jasper, Texas?
Yep.
Right. That was officially. I think that would actually be
that would be considered one.
A lynching. Right. That'd be technically the last lynching.
Yeah. And that was how long ago? I mean, it's been a while.
Right. And here's the funny thing, right, with that, and I should have remembered this when I was on the show at James Chief, right? The James Byrd situation, right, created the Matthew Shepard and James Byrd Jr. Hate Crimes Prevention Act. So, and that covers lynching as a federal crime. Okay.
Yes, it does.
So why is she trying to make a statement about lynching, especially in the wake of people saying the MAGA hat is a hood, is a swastika, is this, that, and the third, right? And it's
further demoralization and dehumanization.
Right. And it's creating destabilization, because now you brought up lynching. Oh my God, they're lynching people again. Now we have the racism trigger, we have the lynching trigger. Now what? But at the same time, the left still performs, as Clarence Thomas said during his Senate confirmation hearing, right in front of the Senate Judiciary, as a high-tech lynching of uppity blacks, or in this case, uppity Americans.
Yeah.
Right?
Because at this point, color doesn't make a difference.
No,
on
it doesn't.
It really doesn't. It's all party and class. Mm-hmm. Because that's what they're trying to do monetarily with people who make more money than they do.
Exactly. It's a lynching using Marxism, using an ideology to demoralize and destabilize a nation.
Yeah, it is.
So now we're at a point now rolling into step 3 of this, the crisis portion. Step 3 is the crisis portion of ideological subversion, right? Now, with Kamala Harris passing this getting Senate Bill 488 at least through the Senate, right? She is manufacturing a crisis, just like what they're saying with the MAGA hat. They're manufacturing a crisis. On what grounds? I have not known anybody that wears a MAGA hat, right, that has performed a lynching.
Nope.
You know, that has done anything hate crime related. Now, we have some idiots out there. I'm not saying there isn't. Right.
No, there's idiots in every group.
Right.
That goes without saying. I mean, It has to, because we're human.
Right. I mean, they use, what's his name, Cesar Hayek. Oh, he was a MAGA bomber, and I'm like, okay, those of you that didn't pay attention, if you paid attention to the van, those stickers were fresh.
Yeah.
Okay. And Florida statute also says that You can't have stickers or anything on your vehicle that obstructs your view, and he has stickers on the back of his van. And I don't think people picked up on that. That van was not driven. That van might have been driven at night and planted.
Yeah.
Right?
And see, I can't look at it and say that it's a conspiracy theory, because how the hell do you drive that? Honestly.
Right.
And everybody, there were people who had come up, witnesses who had said, "Oh yeah, it was parked here and here," but that was very recently to that case. It was not for weeks and months before.
Right.
So I don't know. I don't know. I honestly.
Now, being a Florida boy and knowing how FHP is and how Southern Florida is when it comes to police, he wouldn't have drove that van in broad daylight. He would not have driven that van in broad daylight. He would have been stopped quicker than you can make quick instant grits. Straight up.
Yeah, and that's pretty quick. Around here, it would have been the same.
Yeah.
I have stickers on the backs of my vehicles, but they're on the back windows, and you can see through them.
Right, exactly.
There's plenty of holes there. That way, I can actually see to drive.
Right.
My entire vehicles are not covered. That was just a little too creepy.
Yeah, exactly. And for people to fall into that trap, I'm just like, are you kidding me right now?
Yeah.
Are you really kidding me right now?
Well, and you were talking about the whole Kamala Harris bill manufacturing legislation ahead of an event.
Right.
Then we had the article, CNN publishes Obama official Civil War conspiracy. Did you happen to read that article?
No, I actually have it in my queue to read amongst the 100 and some odd things I have already queued up to read eventually at some point before Monday night.
Kristen Taylor did the article, and it talks about a former Obama official, Joshua Gelfer.
Okay.
I'm thinking he was part of the National Security Council for Obama's last 2 years in office. He published an article basically calling for civil war if Obama, or if Trump, not Obama. Everybody was thinking Obama would never leave office. But if Trump doesn't relinquish the office, if he doesn't accept the fact that he's been beaten in a presidential election in 2020, and I'm thinking, well, that's going a little far considering we haven't had the election. It's not even 2020 yet.
Right.
And we're going to say that there's going to be a civil war. So you've got narratives being pushed and ideas being kind of shunted to the forebrain of the American public with things like Kamala Harris's anti-lynching and now with this article. And this is something that has gone viral. I know if I've read it, you've got it in your queue. Others have seen it, at least clips of it. How many others are looking along these lines and saying, we're not even going to give him a chance. We're not going to bother. We're just going to hold the election, and we're going to say, oops, you lost.
Right, exactly. And the theory out there right now is that the Democrats are going to try to manufacture votes, right? Or, they're going to bag votes to try to overtake Trump.
That's always a possibility. You know that.
Uh-huh. Oh,
I mean, look at L.A. What is it, L.A. County?
Yeah.
1.5 million votes that they've got to get, voters they have to pull off their rolls.
Right. Yep.
That's a lot of voters, folks.
Yep. That's a couple, two, three.
That's a lot of voters.
That is definitely a couple, 2, 3. But and I'm gonna bring Christianity into it a second too,
sure.
Right? Because they're tagging Christianity, right?
Yes, they are.
To the MAGA hat, right?
Yes.
And just like my friend Rico said last show, is because he's an atheist that's happened to be conservative, and. Yeah. He was mentioning how they get attacked from the left just as bad, if not worse, than Christians. And it's a lot of the right wingers, which I agree 100% because I see it on Twitter all the time, attacking atheists.
Yeah.
all the time, just as much as the left is attacking atheists. Right? So, and that in itself is a problem.
It is. Because, you know what, even if you don't believe in a God, you still have faith in something, whether it be yourself or your ability to make money for your family or just your family.
Right. I mean,
you still have faith. It's just different.
Right. Exactly. I mean, everybody, no matter what you practice, I don't care if you're Protestant, you're Christian, you're pagan, you're atheist, you're Islam, you're Anglican or Lutheran, but you get where I'm going, right?
Oh yeah.
People still have a moral center. The question is, where do they get their moral center from? Now, religion, right? Religion as a whole, and people are going to hate that I say this because it is the unpopular opinion no one wants to talk about. Religion is behavior control. Is exactly what it is.
Yes, it is. And I grew up in the Catholic Church. It wasn't just the faith, it was the behavior control. It was Our Lady of the Iron Underwear at the parochial schools with the rulers. The nuns are very strict, but it's one of those things where you're given a center, you're given a center point to survive, to live in this world, and that center point is believing that there's right and wrong, good and evil. If you don't have that center point, you don't have anything. You don't have a belief in the law. You don't have a belief in the right and the wrong. You don't have a belief in good and evil. Atheism is not that. Okay.
Right.
What I'm seeing is it's the political ploy of those who say, "Oh my word, you're a Christian. You're bad. You're bad. You're bad. You're bad." No. You have no center. You have nothing to guide you if you say that.
Right.
That's all faith is. And it, again, like you said, it doesn't matter what faith or whether you're an atheist. It doesn't matter. You have that center to guide you because there is a base seed of faith in all of us.
Right.
And if you don't believe in right and wrong, and if you don't believe in good and evil, what do you believe in?
Right. And that
what can you believe in?
And that kind of makes me want to point my finger to the left, which I shouldn't, right? Because the question is for them, what is right and wrong? And
they don't believe in it.
It's definitely not how we believe what right and wrong is, and what freedom and individual liberty and life is. Or
it's the extreme left more than anything. Well, of course, it's moving further toward the middle at this point. Because when I hear somebody like Nancy Pelosi say that walls are immoral, no, actually they're not. They kind of enforce morality, wouldn't you think?
Yeah, it does, because an honest person is not going to jump a wall, cross a fence, or kick in your front door.
Yeah. It keeps honest people honest.
Yep, exactly.
And that's basically what faith does.
Yes. Yes, it does. You know what I mean? And it just, these people with this whole MAGA hat thing and, what have you, want to keep everybody destabilized and pointing fingers at each other. Meanwhile, they're going underneath and they're subverting everything, and while we're not paying attention, right, further destabilizing and really causing a true crisis.
They are.
Right, or diverting from the real crisis.
And it's hard to pay attention to everything. That's the whole point.
Yeah, exactly.
They're so busy destabilizing everything and pointing fingers and yelling and screaming and, oh my God, you can't wear that hat. It's horrible. It's horrible. Meanwhile, the other hand is under the table passing bills.
Yep, exactly. That's exactly
like they're running them off a mimeograph machine. You remember those?
Yes, I do. I remember that 100%.
But that's what it sounds like, is they're coming off that machine.
Yep. I definitely agree with that. I'll go ahead and hold that point a second. We're going to pause here for a quick minute for a quick promo.
Okay.
Are you tired of the same groupthink and want to have your ideas challenged? The Black Patriot Show and theblackpatriot.com is the place for you. It will challenge your intellect and keep you informed. Make sure to subscribe to the newsletter on theblackpatriot.com and subscribe to this podcast on any podcast platform you prefer. Are you ready to be challenged?
Welcome back. I appreciate it. So we come now that we have all this chaos going on, right? And all this stuff jumbled up in the air, and people are afraid to be conservatives while the leftists keep pushing that conservatives and MAGA hat wearing people and Christians and all that are the devil, right? Now we're getting to a point, which stage 4 of the ideological subversion, called normalization. They're trying to create this chaos to create a new norm, right? Conservatives, and actually, let me step back a minute, right? Let me step back on that. Back in the late 1800s, when the Klan was created, right? They were created to keep people from voting Republican, right? Yes. Especially black folks, right? Because obviously black folks, they were the Republican Party.
They were.
So they created the Klan, pushed the black folks out, and now the Republicans / conservatives are racist, right? They pushed that narrative, right? And made it normal. So now here we are, 4 or 5 generations removed, 6 generations removed from the Lily White movement, okay? And we've already started the cycle again.
Yeah.
We have started that cycle that started over 124 years ago. We're starting that cycle all over again.
And how scary is that?
Yeah. And those of you that don't know about the Lily White movement and and the Klan's role in the Lily White movement, you should go look it up. It will open your eyes to exactly what's happening right now.
Yeah, it will.
And where we are heading if we don't pay attention, open our mouths, and we need to be louder than the left.
We need to be absolutely louder. And one of the things that crosses my mind at odd points when I'm listening to some of the coverage that I'm hearing, how far away from new Jim Crow laws are we? Only they wouldn't be against people of color. They would be against white folks. Conservatives.
Yeah. We're already there.
Conservatives, period.
We're already there.
No, I mean further Jim Crow laws.
Oh, well, yeah, it's just like my friend, the African American Observer. He always hashtags defeat Dem Crow.
Yeah. I mean, because we are on the cusp now of regressing our society back, like you said, 123, 124 years ago. And that's not good.
No, not at all.
I really don't want my grandkids growing up in that kind of world.
Right. And you see how they're trying to do it, right? Okay, black folks need reparations. Right.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Need compensation because they compensated the Japanese from the internment camps. Well, as I said all the time, I said it today on Twitter. Black Americans got their reparations. It's called the 13th Amendment. It's called the 14th Amendment. It's called the 15th Amendment. It's called the Civil Rights Act of 1964. It's also called the Civil Rights Act of 1968. Now tell me where amongst all that legislation and constitutional amendments that black folks didn't get reparations.
And that's the whole point. Your average progressive Democrat does not see it that way.
No, they don't, because they try to continue to create policy to suppress, right? I mean, look, progressives...
Well, no. If you take a closer look at it, what they're doing is the same thing Obama did with the free phones.
Right. And
the health care and everything else. Oh, no, we're going to give you stuff.
Right. And
if you'll just vote for us, we're going to give you stuff.
Exactly. And at the same time, the progressives has created gentrification.
Yeah.
So we're going to give you free phones, right? Oh, well, your neighborhood is kind of run down, so let's help fix it up. Meanwhile, they fix it up to a point where they can't live in this neighborhood anymore, and they got pushed out to the suburbs where it's even more expensive. Now
in some
what?
cases, yeah. I mean, you gentrify the area so that you get higher rents, and the people who live there can no longer afford it, and they're pissed off.
Yep.
So they have to move, and of course, a lot of them, if they have jobs in that area, how are you going to get transportation?
Exactly. That's exactly it. And people are not paying attention to that at all. They're just like, oh, yeah, they're going to do us some good. But then yet again, next election cycle, they vote for these same exact people that did this to them. I never
understood that. I have never understood that.
Because of the promise of free stuff. Oh, I'll take this temporary free stuff while you take out my neighborhood, right? While you take out the good teachers out of our schools and move them to other places, right? You create policies that is very, very, very aggressive and progressive, where people don't feel safe in these neighborhoods and in these schools, and you have the good quality teachers that want to, that are legitimately want to teach in these communities can't because they don't feel safe.
Or you get, in our case, you get brand new schools because the schools were falling apart, literally. You get brand new schools, and you don't pay your teachers anymore, so they're making the lowest wages in the country.
Right. That's exactly it. And this is why I have always said the government, even so, and I should say this, the government at the federal level has no business in education.
No.
At the state
level,
at the state level, minimal.
It should be local.
Yes, it should be county.
It really should be.
Yes, it should be county.
But you're not going to get them to relinquish that control because they have it now. They're not going to let it go.
No.
Same thing with marriage licensing. That should not be a federal issue either.
Nope.
It shouldn't be a state issue.
Nope.
That should be between you and whoever you want to have you marry you.
Exactly. That's exactly it, right? And
your parish pastor or priest or whatever, your neighbor down the street that's a licensed magistrate, whatever.
Right. Exactly. And with along with the normalization too, right? There's as we just talked about, we get the free phones, and all this, the third, right? Promising people, all kinds of goodies and this utopia. Right? Yeah. To further destabilize the economy and eliminate the complete principle of free market. Okay.
Yeah.
With this, right? And going back to the MAGA hat, right? Going back to, the subject at hand, right?
Sure.
Most conservatives, for the most part, right, are either business ambitious, small business owners, or they're involved in corporate America. Okay,
or they're just everyday working stiffs like us.
Exactly.
I mean, because it's the funny thing is we're not looking for handouts.
No,
we don't want the government in our lives like that, and I think that may be the biggest defining line there.
Yes, it is.
We don't want the government up in our butts. We just want to be able to live our lives.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they want Big Brother to come in and with their benevolent dictators, which would be a leftist president, and let us say promise these things, regardless if it can't happen, right? And it also helps promote people wanting a new system once they're completely destabilize everything, right? Look at the Green New Deal, right?
Yeah.
The Green New Deal would that's the system they want to try to push after they have deemed conservatives and MAGA hat wearers, etc., as these evil people. And people are like, oh no, we don't want capitalism anymore.
And by making people who wear MAGA hats and conservatives in general, by making them a fringe group politically, that's exactly what they're doing.
Right.
They are normalizing the progressive systems and the progressive policies and making conservatism, like the Tea Party,
right,
like the conservative movement now, they're making that a fringe movement.
Right.
And placing the blame for all the world's ills on that movement.
Right. That's right. That is dead right. And I there's not much I ever agree with Dianne Feinstein about. But I don't know if you saw that video when the kids came and visited her. And you know what? I was actually applauding when she was serving, and she's serving these kids right. Now, people saying, oh, she was talking down to the kids. No, she stated actual fact. It's unaffordable or unsustainable. She flat out said that. It is unaffordable
and unsustainable. And she did say that.
Yes, she did.
And that's why she didn't sign on to it.
Right.
However, she went one step further and said it can't always be my way or the highway.
Right.
Well,
and they kept pushing her. You need to say yes.
Well, no. With Dianne Feinstein, I'm gonna trip her up on this one because that's hypocritical as hell.
Oh yeah, gun legislation.
Gun legislation.
Need I say more?
Ooh, that's the one that really trips my trigger.
Yeah.
It's always been with her, my way or the highway.
Right. That's right.
Always.
That's right. And
she has never relented on this.
Right.
And I'm sorry, we're talking about the Second Amendment.
Mm-hmm.
We're not talking about a bill for highways.
Right. We're talking the foundation of our nation's laws you're playing with.
Yep. And she has played with it for 30 years.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And I was talking to somebody, I don't know, it was in a Twitter feed, and you know, this guy was talking about the Green New Deal is going to be the next best thing, da. It's like, so how do we pay for this? Because initially it's going to take $150 trillion that we don't have. Well, we can tax people more. I said, you can tax people more, but $150 trillion, I said, here's something you got to understand. Our federally unfunded liability as of, well, I'll say this morning, was $151.4 trillion. That's money that's outside the debt that we need to cover.
Yeah.
And we
unfunded
can't.
Liabilities are going to be the death of our country.
Yes, it is. And it's like, how do you tack on something double what our unfunded liability is and expect us to try to pay for it? That just it makes people. It
boggles, doesn't it? It boggles the mind, and it was really funny. I was reading through that, and you had done a piece on it, and I was reading through the Green New Deal, and I'm thinking, I'm sorry, we're going to replace every building in the United States in 10 years. Every building.
Yeah, good luck with that.
I'm sorry, I haven't finished paying on my house yet. You're not bulldozing it,
right? I mean, it would take 3 generations to do something like that.
Minimum.
Because we don't have the workers to do that.
We don't have the workers. We don't have the finances. We don't have the materials.
Yeah, we don't have the resources to do it. It makes no sense.
No, it doesn't. Makes no sense at all. Well, and you want to put us right for a and I'm going to go conspiracy theorist on you here. You want to put us right for an invasion?
No,
let us get that far in debt. Let us get that far in debt and see what happens.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. That's not conspiracy theory. That is on point. How much money do we owe China? And the second question is, when are they going to come to collect?
Exactly. And how are they going to collect it?
Right.
They're going to take over more of our ports?
Yeah. Yeah. That's exactly it. I mean, these leftists create this false illusion, right, that they have this quote unquote MAGA situation under control, right? They even the politicians are stepping up and saying, we're fighting for you, right? That's the control. We're fighting for you. The media is doing the same thing. The education system has been doing it for about 4 generations, right? And they continue to pump out this bad indoctrination, this propaganda, right? Yeah. Giving the people discomfort that they're living in peace when they really are not. Right? No. It's completely the contrary, right? I mean, we're literally in an ideological state of war right now. And the question is, who is going to win? I mean, this is a war against our Constitution, our basic principles and foundations of this country.
It's literally a war against the American people, and nobody is looking at it that way. What happens, and I have to ask this, everybody is so all hot and bothered about the MAGA hats. What happens when those disappear?
Right.
What will they go after next?
They'll continue.
What will be the big bad dragon in the room that they go after next?
Christianity and the Bible.
They've been going after Christianity for years.
Yep, and they'll continue to do it.
They'll continue that. But what will be the next big bad dragon? Because Christianity has always been the little dragon in the corner.
Right.
Right now, it's the MAGA hats.
Right.
What's going to be the next big thing?
Right.
I mean, are we going to have to record our vote before we even take it from now on?
Yeah, pretty much.
Just to make sure we're not voting in a conservative manner?
Right.
Are we going to have to open up our checkbooks so that everybody can be sure of how much money we have and how much money we're spending and what we're spending it on?
Right.
This is getting to the point of ridiculousness. Now you have laws that are coming online or attempting to come online, bills that are coming up, like New York State, or maybe New York City alone, but I think it's in New York State, where they want access to your social media before you can get a gun.
Right.
I'm sorry, who made you judge and jury?
Right.
This is what's happening. And if they're willing to go that far over firearms, are they willing to do it over voting rights? Are they willing to do it over First Amendment rights?
Right, that's true.
Do I have to prove which way I vote before I can walk into a church?
Right. That's right.
Or before I get a driver's license? Are we going over to China's system of social points?
Right. Right.
Because that's what it looks like.
Right, and we won't get into either. Speaking of the MAGA hat, kind of extension of that with the Coast Guard guy that said he was going to tell journalists and Democrats, and I'm like, okay, another SIAC situation. It's exactly what it is. It's another one. Right?
Yeah, it is.
It's exactly another one, and I'm like, and you people are just it's too timely that all this stuff, all this stuff comes out, boom, 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 and then it clears out. But they won't talk about the 379 potential, quote unquote, which I hate the word, hate crimes against conservatives either. We won't talk about that.
No. Like the guy in the Sam's Club, where was it, Kentucky or Tennessee?
Yep, they had a gun pulled out on him in the grocery store because he wore a hat. Really?
In the Sam's Club, because he was inside the damn store. They had the interview with him on, I think it was either Cam and Company or on Dana Lash the other night. He was inside the store.
Yep. Sure was.
And the guy pulled a gun and pointed it in his face because he was wearing a MAGA hat. I'm sorry. No. Dead man walking.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. Because you pull out a gun, you better use it. Because if not,
you better use it. Because if not, it's going to be used on you.
Pretty much. You're going to get it.
But this whole thing, I believe his name is Hassan, the Coast Guardsman. I don't think that made as big a splash as they thought it would.
No, not at all. Not at all. Nope.
And I have to wonder why.
I can't.
Because it just this whole thing is getting creepy. Every time big news comes out, we have an alternating story.
Right.
Something that should be really, really big and splashy and, oh my God, why did he do that? What was he planning? Oh my God. It should create some kind of at least visceral panic. This one didn't. And I don't know if we're just getting used to that kind of news cycle.
Right.
Where we're expecting something like that to happen.
Right.
Just to distract us from the things that are being proven false.
Right. Yeah, that's it.
So, I don't know. Like I said, that's the conspiracy side of me, so... And yeah, I have a lot of questions about that particular arrest.
Yeah. I do. I do. It just baffles me that people are just so wrapped up in They spend all their emotions on hatred.
Yeah.
That they don't get anywhere in life. And I tell people this all the time. You can sit here and hate on me all day while you're wasting your time hating me or hating, or hating people that follow Trump, hating people that are conservatives. Their life is going on and you're still stuck in the same spot you were when I saw you last year. Still stuck there. Still stuck. Because you can't get out of that hatred that you're in that's holding you back. You're holding yourself back. You talk about capitalism is bad, et cetera, and you're hating on all this. But while you're doing all that hating, why are you not out here producing and making better for yourself? You're making it worse on yourself.
The funny thing is if you're going to stand there and stomp your feet and scream because I'm wearing a MAGA hat, you're wasting your time and energy, honey. I don't care.
Right.
It doesn't bother me a bit that you're going to scream and throw a wall-eyed hissy fit just because of an article of clothing. Grow up.
Yeah.
Get a job. Find something constructive to do with your life.
Right. That's right.
And for the pundits to be saying, oh, we need to ban it, like the one representative, we were discussing this earlier, the one representative who wanted to ban it from youth. He wanted no teenagers should be able to wear this. Nobody under the age of 18 should be able to wear this because it looks like it's causing mental issues. What the hell are you talking about, dude?
Right.
It's a hat.
Yeah.
I mean, you're willing to allow them to wear ball caps with marijuana leaves on them, but not with "Make America Great Again"?
Right. Exactly.
There's an issue here in someone's thinking, and I don't think it's on the conservative side.
My favorite word, cognitive dissonance.
It's certainly appropriate right now, isn't it?
On many levels.
On many levels. It is so appropriate.
And even on that, too, we can just circle into, speaking of normalization, right?
Yeah.
The what's that girl name? Hoda Mutha or something like that? That girl that went over to Syria.
Yeah. I think her last name is Mutha. I know her first name is Hoda.
Yeah, there you go.
Pretty girl.
Yeah,
very
and
pretty
she
girl.
wants to come back to the United States, and you know what the left is saying. We need to let her come back.
No. Absolutely not.
And I pointed to someone one time earlier. I was like, your president, as you call him, your president, his Secretary of State, his name's John Kerry, right? He said that she is not a U.S. citizen. Yep. So, about that. Okay. And the fact, she had a green card. Yes. But the stipulations behind the green card is you got to have continual residency in the United States.
Yep.
When she left and got married to a guy in Syria. 3
of them, as a matter of fact.
Yes. She gave up her, basically her American residency. Not citizenship, her American residency.
Yep.
And now,
which means she had no further green card privileges at all.
Nope. Zero, zilch, zero, period. And then the fact that...
the funny thing is if they can prove that she did have citizenship, in other words, they're saying that at the time she was born, her father was not a diplomat. Okay? She was born in New Jersey, which is that's not a surprise. Come on.
Right.
If it does prove out, if they can prove that she was a citizen, okay, she can come back, but it'll be to Gitmo.
Yeah, pretty much. Because and even people on our side of the spectrum, right? Mm-hmm. Get treason confused for what it is. Every time I turn around, it seems like I'm correcting people on what treason is.
Yep.
Okay. These people on our side claim to be constitutionalists and they love their constitution.
And they don't know the difference between treason and sedition.
Right. Thank you. Thank you very much. What's been happening, like with Andrew McCabe, is sedition. Is exactly what it is. Treason is defined in Article 3, Section 3 of the Constitution. People need to read that and understand what treason means. You just can't throw treason out there because they do something against the country. That's a whole different charge. right? Because if we pushed everybody on treason, there would be a lot of dead people, because treason, the only punishment for that is death.
Yeah. There is no commuting that particular sentence.
No.
None.
You're basically dead on sight, basically.
Yep.
You're done. It's sedition. Sedition is what these people are doing, and I wish people would use the correct terminology for what they're doing, because, again, people say words carry weight. Well, calling someone treasonous, that's very serious.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, and I've been called that on Twitter. You're a traitor. For what? You're going to give me a death sentence for what?
Mm-hmm.
And then I get, no, we don't have to have for treason. You do.
Yes, you do.
There's no ifs, ands, or buts on that. That is a death penalty.
Yes, all the way around.
The thing is we have senators, we have representatives, we have citizens who are committing sedition.
Oh, every day.
But they're never tagged on it.
No, they're not, because they're looking for the treason.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, that ain't going to happen.
No,
now
people aren't that stupid.
You'd be amazed. This little gal who wants to come home from Syria, the only reason she wants to come home is because she's in a refugee camp right now.
Right, and here's what's interesting too. The girl from that left the UK and went to Syria and did the same thing wants to come back at exactly the same time. So what is that? To me, what is that telling me? Something, they're trying to plan something and further destabilization of our country.
Either they're trying to plan something, or ISIS really is pretty much defunct.
No, ISIS will never be defunct. That's not going to happen. It's not, because as long as Iran is a terror power in the Middle East, ISIS is not going anywhere. I mean, hell,
I hadn't thought about that. About it that far.
I mean, the Houthi rebels, if you want to really take a shot at it, they are an extension of ISIS.
Well, take it even further. Hamas.
Yeah, Hamas. Yeah, Hamas contributes to ISIS. Sure does. Sure enough, does.
So but in that part of Syria, they are pretty much defunct.
Yeah, yes, they are.
They can't get laid no more because their wives and girlfriends are all in refugee camps.
Yep. Sure are. Now I want to go home. No, sorry. You should have thought about that when you were here. Sorry for you.
You should have thought about that before you burned your passport.
Yep, burn your passport, or just betrayed the country that was so good to you.
Yeah. Yeah, and the funny thing is I keep hearing the attorney that the family got for her say, "Oh, well, she's a citizen of the U.S." Well, do you know what we do with citizens who do crap like that?
Charge them with treason.
You might not want to claim citizenship there, pal.
Yeah, and the thing with that, too, though, is we have to set the precedent also with these people providing material support to ISIS in our country. We need to set that's in that case, I don't know if you could go treason or if you would go sedition, right?
With her, because she wasn't necessarily providing material support, she was providing aid and comfort.
Yes, which technically would be treason.
Okay. She married 3 of them, gave one of them a child. That is technically treason.
Yes, it is. Right down to the letter.
So I'm not real sure she really wants to come back as a citizen of the U.S.
No, I think she needs to rethink that. She didn't think this all the way through when she did it. Obviously, she didn't read her Constitution, the country that she claimed to love. She didn't read the Constitution.
Well, I have to look at it this way, too. Do you honestly think that that's what she's going to be charged with?
No, but she's not getting back in the country anyway. Pompeo's not going to allow it. And here's the other thing that I mentioned too on the Chief Report. This is a perfect case to test the 14th Amendment Clause 2.
Yes, it is. Oh my God, yes, it is.
Because
the thing is her child wouldn't be allowed in the States because he's not a citizen.
That's correct. That is correct, right? And this will prove if it's political or it's territorial.
Yep.
Which we know. Me and you are textualists, okay? When it comes to the Constitution, we know it means political, period.
Yeah. Yep. That's how it's always been. That's how it was argued up until what? Right around 1910, 1905, somewhere in there.
Yeah, it was the case after the Wong case that kind of switched.
Oh, that's around. Right. So it's been a little bit more recent than that.
Yeah.
But even then, it wasn't totally proven either way. I mean, it's still up for debate as to whether it's political or territorial.
Right.
As far as people are willing to interpret the Constitution. As far as I'm concerned, no, it's political. It's not territorial.
Because the 14th Amendment was written for the freed slaves.
Yes, it was.
Written for
it
them.
was not written for people coming over from Guatemala.
Sure wasn't. Nope, it was definitely political jurisdiction, and you can't take it further than that.
Yeah. So if she comes back as a citizen, she will not have custody of her child.
No.
I'm not sure what she's going to do with it.
Don't know.
Because the child is not a citizen. She could apply for citizenship for him, but if you're under trial for sedition or for treason, I don't know that applies.
Nope, she gets the rights to due process. That's it. That's the only right she gets.
So the only possibility is her parents
would have adopted
claiming kinship with the child and having him brought over that way and applying for citizenship for him.
Yep.
But they wouldn't have her in the picture at all.
Nope. Sure can't. Sure can't. Well, it's been great to talk about this ideological subversion and everything that's going on with the MAGA hat and even the current issues that's kind of boiled into this. I appreciate you taking time out as always to discuss the issues with me, Miss Kell. I greatly appreciate it. You have any final thoughts or words for the listeners before we sign off for the evening?
Wear your MAGA hats proudly, folks, and carry a gun.
Well, there you go. See, someone else agrees with me. Wow, that's basically that. She summed it up pretty good right there for you. Stay protected at all times. You have to.
Absolutely.
It's getting too violent out here to even step outside your front door, saying you support Trump.
Yeah.
Saying that you're a conservative, saying that you're a Christian. And
even having stickers on your vehicle that say you're even close to being conservative is scary.
Yeah. That's past scary for me personally.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you. We will definitely do this again, and we will talk soon.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. You've reached another end of a great episode of the Black Patriot Show. Make sure you connect at theblackpatriot.com. Don't forget to sign up for the newsletter to receive updates. Make sure you're following me on social media, Tea Party Rod T. Make sure you subscribe to this podcast on all your preferred podcast platforms, and it's also a pinned tweet on my Twitter account. You can also go over to omni.fm, that's OMNY.FM, and search for the Black Patriot Show. And until next time, in liberty and in His grace, God bless you, God bless your family, and God bless America.
Using an overpriced trash bag.
Pricey, pricey, pricey!
A bag that breaks.
Whippy, whippy, whippy!
Or a smelly bag.
Stinky, stinky, stinky!
Time to switch to Hefty Ultra Strong trash bags. Always at an ultra low price.
Hefty, hefty, hefty.
Would you like to voice your patriotism without the threat of being censored or shadow banned? Would you like to contribute to wounded veterans but don't know how? Would you like to communicate with like-minded conservatives without being trolled? If you answered yes, then Red Elephant, rdelephant.com is for you. Red Elephant is the new social media platform that will not censor or shadow ban you, and a portion of your sign-up fee goes directly to the Wounded Warriors Project. rdelephant.com.
One America News Network, your leading source for the latest breaking national and international news. With nearly 4 times as many headlines as the other networks. Straight news, no speculation, no opinion, just the facts. Complete coverage 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. One America News Network, your source for credible news.
The very First Amendment in the Constitution of the United States of America gives us the freedom to express our opinions and ideas in many ways. Speech can be weak, speech can be strong. Speech can be words, speech can be song. Speech can breed love, speech can breed hate. Speech can be poor, speech can be great. There are so many things that speech can be, but above all else, speech must be free. This message is brought to you by the NAB Education Foundation, the Broadcast Education Association, McCormick Foundation, and this station.
All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is WHBJ Digital Talk. Wow, what a great couple shows, man. A couple episodes of the Black Patriot Show. Wow, great stuff. Hope you enjoyed it. Please share it. We're running out of time. Tonight we have one last drive, or /maybe close to the last drive, to get Mona straightened out at CPAC. Please go to paypal.me/Hutch Bailey Jr. That's BAILIE. Let's try to get her straightened out. Anyway, great show tonight. We're going to change gears a little bit and go to UK true crime. I told you I wanted to get several genres on here, and that's what we're going to do right now. So let's check it out, and please let me know and let the creators know if you like something on here. Let's make sure we know that, or they know that you heard it here. Let's check it out.
Hello and welcome to episode 120 of the UK True Crime Weekly podcast. I'm Adam. Today I head to Northern Ireland once more to look at events that occurred during the so-called Troubles. As always when I cover these stories, I must emphasise that I touch on the politics only as it's necessary to gain context on the stories. I'm not taking sides, and as always on this podcast, my interest is in the events that happened and how they affected normal people. Before we begin, a huge thank you to all my supporters on Patreon, but especially this week's new supporters, Emma Clements, Jennifer Trebon, and Paula Johnson-Messer. When you think you're safe, you're not. When you think the past is over, it isn't. When you think you know someone, you don't. When you think you've guessed this twist, you haven't. One moment will change 3 women's lives forever. I'm delighted that this podcast is sponsored by Cross Her Heart, the addictive new thriller from Sarah Pinborough, the #1 best-selling author of Behind Her Eyes. I've read both books, and Cross Her Heart is an excellent read. I loved it, and I shared it with friends. But it comes with a warning. Cross Her Heart will keep you up all night as you try and guess the twist. I don't want to tell you any more than that here, but please buy this book today. That is Cross Her Heart by Sarah Pinborough, the #1 best-selling author of Behind Her Eyes. Thank you. Today's podcast is also sponsored by Thriver. Thriver allows you to take control and improve your everyday health through an at-home finger prick blood test. I used it for the first time last week, and I was seriously impressed. Thriver allows you to track key biomarkers over time, such as cholesterol, liver function, vitamin D, B12, folate, diabetes indicators, and more, so you can track how your lifestyle is affecting your health and recognise trends over time. I liked how easy it was to complete. And when finished, simply return your sample and within 48 hours, get your GP written results and personal recommendations on how to improve via your online dashboard. So what are you waiting for? Head to thriver.co and order your baseline or advanced kit. And even better, listeners to this show can get 50% off by using the promo code TRUECRIME. That's all capitals. That is thriver.co and use the promo code TRUECRIME. Thank you. Let's very briefly set context for today's story by recalling what we were listening to on the 30th of October 1993. Number 1 in the UK was Meatloaf with I Do Anything for Love, brackets, but I won't do that, close brackets. There was hard rock on both sides of the Atlantic, with Mariah Carey topping the US charts with Dream Lover. And in the Australian album charts for 1993, the top seller was Whitney Houston with the soundtrack from The Bodyguard. In the news this month, legendary rapper Tupac was charged with aggravated assault. Boris Yeltsin declared a state of emergency in Moscow, and his troops occupied the Russian parliament. And after 9 seasons and 3 championships with the Chicago Bulls, Michael Jordan announced his retirement from the NBA, before returning on March the 18th, 1995, and leading the Bulls to another 3 NBA titles. The Ulster Defence Association, or UDA, is the largest Ulster loyalist paramilitary and vigilante group in Northern Ireland. It was formed in September 1971 and undertook an armed campaign of almost 24 years as one of the participants of the Troubles. Its declared goal was to defend Ulster Protestant loyalist areas and to combat Irish republicanism, particularly the IRA. It declared a ceasefire in 1994 and officially ended its campaign in 2007, although some would dispute this. The vast majority of its victims were Irish Catholic civilians killed at random in what the group called retaliation for IRA actions or attacks on Protestants. Of course, there were unspeakable atrocities on all sides, and according to the conflict archive on the internet, 3,532 people were killed as a result of this conflict from 1969 to 2001. Just the sheer number of killings is remarkable, let alone all the others injured or suffering psychological trauma. It is no wonder that feelings still run so deep. It was October the 23rd, 1993. Just another ordinary day in Belfast, Northern Ireland. The UDA's Shankill headquarters was above Frizzle's Fish Shop on the Shankill Road, and their top people regularly met there on a Saturday. The IRA had planned to kill the senior leaders with a bomb. The operation was to be carried out by Thomas Begley and Sean Kelly, 2 young IRA members from Ardoyne. They drove from Ardoyne to the Shankill Road in a hijacked blue Ford Escort, which they parked around the corner. Dressed in overalls as deliverymen, they entered the shop with a £5 bomb in a holdall. Nobody in the busy shop gave them a second glance. It was shortly after 1 p.m. on a Saturday afternoon, and the area was crowded with mostly women and children. Kelly held back and stood by the door, whilst Begley made his way through the tightly packed customers towards the counter, where the massive bomb detonated prematurely at 1:06 p.m. Eamon Ferguson and Paddy McGlinchey were paramedics in Belfast who were on duty and received the call to attend the scene. Speaking later to the Belfast Telegraph, Paddy takes up the story. The crowd was getting so intense that it was starting to impede on us being able to do our jobs, although it's very understandable why, because people thought they'd relatives in there. Paddy said that an ambulance was taken by a member of the public after he left his keys in it. I left my keys in the ambulance. I ran back, but it was gone, he said. The ambulance was taken by someone who probably had good intentions, but they may have loaded that up with patients with broken arms, broken limbs, and thinking they were doing a good job getting 6 people to hospital. But we didn't need those 6 people taken to hospital. We needed the ambulance for the people who were trapped under the rubble, who were barely breathing. His colleague Eamon took up the story. I sort of moved a stone away, and that's when I saw a child's face looking at me through the rubble. I could tell the child was dead, but for some reason, I thought if we could just somehow manage to free this child, then we might be able to resuscitate them. We were digging and digging trying to free the child. Then I saw another arm underneath the child, which was another child. Eamon added that the death toll just kept rising as he searched through the rubble. You were hoping to dig down and find that it was just rubble, that there weren't as many people there as we first thought. Then you realise, I found a body here, and you drop your head, he said. This is someone's relative, someone's son, someone's wife, someone's daughter. At the end of that terrible day, bomber Thomas Begley was killed, along with 9 other people, 2 of them children. They were owner John Frizzell, aged 63, his daughter Sharon McBride, 29, Leanne Murray, aged 13, UDA member Michael Morrison, 27, and his partner Evelyn Baird, 27, and their daughter Michelle, aged just 7. George Williamson, 63, and his wife Gillian, 49, and Wilma McKee, aged 38. The force of the blast caused the old building to collapse into the pile of rubble. The upper floor came down upon those inside the shop, crushing many of the survivors under the rubble, where they remained until rescued some hours later by volunteers in the emergency services. At least 57 people were injured. Lord Justice McDermott later described what had happened as a wanton slaughter that must rank as one of the most outrageous atrocities ever endured by the people of this province. It's hard to disagree. The stories of each of the innocent victims move you to tears. For example, 63-year-old George Williamson and his wife Gillian were happily walking past Frizzell's without a care in the world, on their way to buy curtains for the new home they'd just moved into the day before, full of hope and thoughts for the future, when Begley and Kelly detonated their bomb. Sean Kelly, the surviving IRA member, was badly wounded in the blast, having lost his left eye and being unable to move his left arm. Upon his release from hospital, he was arrested and convicted of 9 counts of murder, each with a corresponding life sentence. In July 2000, he was released under the terms of the Belfast Agreement. His colleague, Thomas Begley, was seen by many as a hero, and at his funeral, Jerry Adams, the president of Sinn Féin, spoke rousingly of the 22-year-old volunteer who made the ultimate sacrifice for his beliefs. Sickening words, I know, to hear about someone who just murdered innocent people. And tensions across Northern Ireland continued to rise. At Begley's wake, a British soldier fired upon a group of mourners standing outside Begley's home from 40 or so yards away in a passing Land Rover. Among those wounded was Republican activist Eddie Copeland, who needed extensive surgery. The court heard that the soldiers had been shown a photograph of Copeland before being sent on patrol. The soldier who fired the shots, Trooper Andrew Clark, was jailed for 10 years for attempted murder. In sentencing him, the judge said, "There can be no excuse for a soldier to allow his frustration to boil over, lose his head, and shoot at people in the street when there was no possible justification in law." In the wake of the Shankill bombing, church leaders and politicians pleaded for calm and for no retaliation. Even they knew that they were wasting their breath. It was inevitable in the highly charged atmosphere of the time that the loyalist paramilitaries were going to seek revenge. It started later the same day as the Shankill bombing, when they fatally shot a Catholic delivery driver after luring him to a bogus call. Martin Moran, aged just 22, was the father of a 5-month-old baby girl when he was killed. Martin's daughter, Amanda, has a picture of her dad's face tattooed on her forearm with the word Daddy below. She said, "You feel lost in a way. I would love to know what it feels like to have my daddy around, but I never will." A few days later, on the 26th of October, the UDA shot dead another 2 Catholic civilians and wounded 5 in an attack at the council depot in Belfast. Police said a number of men had been shot as the UDA sprayed the yard with 60 bullets as the workers enjoyed their tea break. 2 council workers, James Cameron, aged 54, and Mark Rogers, aged 29, died, but it was obvious that the terrorists had been trying to kill many more men. Mark's son was only 6 when his dad was murdered. Speaking much later, he said, "I was only 6 years old. It had been my birthday 2 days before. Ever since that day, my birthday's been hard. On the one hand, yes, it's your birthday, and people want to celebrate. But I always know that just 2 days later, it'll be the anniversary of my father's murder." My dad had never judged anyone by religion, and mostly all I have is stories of him. But my sister Leanne has even less. She was just 3 when he died. But it was Saturday the 30th of October when the most awful revenge imaginable for the Shankill Road bombing took place. The leadership of the UDA targeted a pub for the retaliation. The Rising Sun bar was far away from Belfast, without the security presence in the city centre following the Frizzell's fish shop murders. The bar just off the main Derry to Limavady road was completely unremarkable and one of a kind that could be found all across Ireland. A normal pub in a small community where everyone knew everyone else and people of all ages and backgrounds mixed. As happened every year, the villagers came together that night for a Halloween celebration, blissfully unaware of the horror which was about to unfold and change their lives forever. On the morning of the attack itself, the planners and those who would carry out the murderous assault met at a safe UDA house. The planning was meticulous, with concealed weapons recovered, getaway cars prepared, and alibis created. Torrens Knight, Jeffrey Deeney, and Stephen Irwin were the men who were tasked with carrying out the act of revenge. That afternoon, members of the gang drove to the Rising Sun, where they went into the bar and placed an order. This was to familiarise themselves with the layout of the pub and to decide on the best positions to fire from. At the safe house, the group even turned a room into a mock-up of the Rising Sun bar. They positioned Irwin and Deeney at the door and showed them how to enter the pub, as well as making them rehearse the actual shootings that were planned. It was agreed that Irwin would fire the AK-47 until its magazine was empty. Whilst Irwin reloaded the assault weapon, Deeney would fire the 9mm pistol until Irwin was ready to take over again. Deeney would then fire the handgun once more to cover their exit from the pub. And during the murderous assault, Knight would be at the entrance to the Rising Sun with the sawn-off shotgun covering that area. During the rehearsal, it was also agreed that as well as driving the clean car to the pickup point after the attack, one of the planners, Brian McNeil, would drive a scout car in front of the Opel Kadett carrying the killers to Greysteel. He was to use a pre-arranged signal of tapping his brake lights 3 times to warn the murderers if there were any police checkpoints ahead. It was after 9:30 p.m. that the 3 UDA members, 2 of whom were wearing blue boiler suits and balaclavas, entered the Rising Sun bar in Greysteel. There were about 70 people inside at the party, having fun and forgetting their day-to-day worries and concerns for a while. And so the masked men were not noticed until they produced a VZ-58 rifle and a 9mm pistol and started shooting into the packed crowd in the lounge area. The leading gunman, Stephen Irwin, yelled, "Trick or treat," as he opened fire. He emptied the magazine before reloading and continuing to shoot at his screaming, terror-filled victims. Jeffrey Deeney opened fire with a 9mm handgun, but it jammed, whilst a third member, Torrens Knight, stood guard at the door with his shotgun. The scene was chaotic as people inside the lounge began to scream in panic, with some pleading for mercy from the gunman, but to no avail. 7 victims died at the scene in Greysteel, with another dying from his injuries later. 6 of those killed were Catholic civilians and 2 were Protestant civilians. None had any known links to political parties or paramilitaries. The killers, laughing, then made their escape in their getaway car, and afterwards they were said to have boasted about the killings. I want to give you as much information as I can about the people who lost their lives that terrible night, and the following is direct from the Belfast Times. Karen Thompson was just 19. The youngest of the victims, she was sitting with her boyfriend Stephen Mullen. She was the first to be killed. Before the firing started and Stephen Irwin had shouted "trick or treat," she told him, "That's not funny." Karen went to Limavady Grammar School. Her mum Olive was Catholic, her dad Anthony was Protestant. Her boyfriend Stephen Mullen was 20. He died from his wounds on the way to hospital. He was a joiner and the eldest in the family of 2 sons and 3 daughters, and he and Karen were thought to be planning to get engaged that Christmas. Joe McDermott was 60. He was a single man who was devoted to his pets, and although a reclusive person, he was a familiar sight to local people as he walked for miles on roads around the area. He could often be seen walking the 5 or 6 miles to Eglinton from his house to buy milk for his cats. His cats were his only companions. He lived a very, very lonely life. Moira Duddy was 59. She was a mum of 6 children. One of her sons was later quoted as saying, "The people who did this are just mad. It is all innocent people who get it." They were sitting in a group of 4. All my father saw was the barrel of the gun, and he told them to get down. My mum was the only one of the 4 to get shot. It later emerged that one of the killers had worked with one of Moira's sons and wrote to him from prison. James Moore was 81. The oldest to die, he was discovered by his son, who owned the Rising Sun pub, lying dead beside the cigarette machine, with 1 wound to the head and 3 to his body. "I heard the bangs and thought it was fireworks," his son, also called James, said, speaking after the atrocity. "The first I saw was my father lying there dead. Then the next was a 19-year-old girl. That finished it. I know my own father's dead, but I don't want any retaliation. Catholics and Protestants get on well here, and I hope it can stay like that." His wife never returned home after the incident because of memories of the shooting. John Moyne was 50. He was a father of 3 teenage children and worked as a supervisor at the nearby chemical factory. Speaking at the time, his wife Lily said, "My husband and I had only entered the Rising Sun a few moments when the gunman appeared. My husband realised what was happening and threw me to the ground to protect me. Had it not been for his quick reaction, I too would have been killed." Samuel Victor Montgomery was 76. A retired farmer and former commander in the B Specials, he collapsed and died at his sister's home months after the Grey Steel attack. His death resulted from blood clots in his legs, caused by his injuries in the shooting, which shifted to his heart and his lungs. And finally, John Burns, he was 54, married with 3 children. His wife was also shot and badly injured in the massacre. John, who lived in Eglinton, was a former soldier with the Ulster Defence Regiment. He had sons aged 19 and 16, and a daughter aged 14. Andre Johnson, who was working as a local taxi driver that night and was one of the first people on the scene, almost 25 years on, told the Belfast Telegraph newspaper just what he had seen. The victims were there in the bar. It was a horrendous sight, young and old. There was a young woman still sitting in her seat, dead. There was an older man at the door. They must have got him when they came in the door. There was a woman who I dropped off in my taxi just hours earlier. These were people I knew. They were friends. It was horrendous to witness something as horrific as that. I walked to the door and had the mind to try and stop any relatives of those poor people coming in to see this until the police arrived. I just knew that they would be scarred for life, he said. Greysteel is such a small village, and when people heard what had happened, they ran down and were there in minutes. In the end, I had to stand back and let them go in. The police arrived then. It was mayhem. No one seemed to know what to do. Panic struck, and there was a worry that the nearby Longfield Inn would be targeted. But the police said that those who had done this had done their hit and would be away now. Survivors were standing around in absolute shock. I did what I could to comfort the husband of one of the victims. I just put him down in the chair and sat with him. I stayed with him. Ambulances arrived and people were trying to get people out into them. People were starting to filter in. There was a priest there, and the reality of it all started to filter through. Andre also worked with his father-in-law and a funeral directors, and found himself back at the Rising Sun in the early hours of the morning, removing the bodies of the dead. At 3 a.m, my father-in-law called me and said that we needed to go back down to the Rising Sun and remove the bodies of those who had passed away. We arrived there via hearses and were able to take the people out before the morning, before the press came, in the quiet of the night. He said he was still affected by what he had seen that night. I can still smell the smoke from their guns 25 years later, he said. That night still haunts me. The following day, the UDA publicly took responsibility for the murderous attack. It said in a statement that the Greysteel raid was a continuation of our threats against the nationalist electorate that they would pay a heavy price for Saturday's murder of 9 Protestants. A West Belfast UDA member claimed that his organisation had information that senior IRA men drank in the rising sun. Unfortunately, they were not there on Halloween, but our boys acted on the briefing that they'd been given. The utter revulsion across the community at what had happened meant that the killers were soon picked up by the police. During their first court appearance, Knight was filmed laughing, taunting and shouting abuse at the victims' relatives as he was led from the building. In 1995, Stephen Irwin, Jeffrey Deeney, Torrens Knight and Brian McNeil were sentenced to life imprisonment for the murders. Knight was also convicted for the role he played in another terrible attack in Castle Rock. The 4 were released from jail in 2000 as part of the early release of prisoners as part of the Good Friday Agreement. As they left jail, they were met by the UDA commander who ordered the massacre. Also released was the surviving bomber from the Shankill Road atrocity, Sean Kelly. The IRA commander who sent him into Frizzell's fish shop on the Shanklin Road was there to meet him too. Kelly smiled as he left jail. He had served the equivalent of just 9 months for each of his 9 life sentences. However, Stephen Irwin was returned to prison in 2005 for 4 years for slashing a man with a knife at a football match. And in October 2009, Knight was found guilty of assaulting 2 sisters in a bar in Coleraine. As a result, his early release licence was suspended and he too was returned to jail. We've spoken briefly about the victims of the awful crimes we've looked at today, but what of the murderers? How did they get to a point in their lives when they could possibly believe that what they were doing had any justification? By 2016, Torrens Knight was a free man and had apparently found God and spoke candidly, if you believe he is now capable of telling the truth, that is, to the Belfast Telegraph about what had led him to that point in his life where he was able to slaughter innocent people. As a child, he lived with his deeply religious grandma and dad on a farm after his parents' marriage broke up. But he became addicted to poker machines at a local pub and stole money from a purse where his grandma kept money for church missions. When this was discovered, his dad and grandma told him to leave, and he moved to Port Stewart with a friend from a hardline loyalist background who'd been told to leave his family home when he dated a Catholic girl. Knight continued, I went to Port Stewart to live. I started drinking and going out. I lost the influence and fear of my dad. One thing led to another. I had anger issues. I would say I had a chip on my shoulder, and I got involved in criminality. A few years later, I got involved in an organisation. I started off just going round the doors selling magazines for the Loyalist Prisoners Association and lifting money. I enjoyed it. Then I progressed. I moved up into the UDA. Going round the doors wasn't enough. I started doing robberies and beatings, things like that. But that still wasn't enough for me. I wanted to go further. I progressed to the UFF, which was really the murder teams of the Loyalist paramilitaries. My life just spiralled out of control. I joined the organisation to fight against the IRA, who I saw as the enemy, and it just progressed and progressed. It was a scary time. I got involved in shooting and ended up killing not only IRA men, but also killing innocent people. That was a thing I'd never thought I would do. I never planned it. It was just like I was going down a road of destruction, and I liked it because it fueled my anger. He said he looked on the UDA as his family. I was part of something. I felt special. I had boys who had watched my back and I would do the same for them. Then the Shankill bomb happened, and orders came down the line that something big was going down, and I was asked to take charge of the team that were going to carry it out. I didn't question it. I'd have done anything I was asked to do by UDA leaders at that point. At the time we were so in a way brainwashed. That's being truthful. We believed that what we were doing was right. And what of the bomber Tom Begley, who lost his life at the Shankill Road bombing? His mum and dad still live in the same house where Tom Begley was brought up. In their late son's bedroom, his rosary beads and a poster of the Irish Declaration of Independence still hangs above his bed, untouched. His dad acknowledges that his son was dedicated to a united Ireland and held Republican beliefs, but says the entire family was shocked when they discovered he joined the IRA. We know he was used, that he was set up. He was young and impressionable, and he got dragged into something. The morning I got the news, I thought he'd just been caught up in a bomb. I can't tell you what it was like to cry for your son, and then hear he had planted the bomb. Tom Begley was known in the community as, well, not being the brightest. He left school without a single qualification and struggled to hold down any job. He'd no reputation as an IRA man. Foolishness rather than brutishness was his distinguishing trait. It is said by many that it's an open secret in Belfast that he was lured into the IRA ranks by cynical elders who knew they could exploit his naivety. So two young men there, on different sides of the conflict, both looking for meaning and direction in their lives, and exploited by others to promote a cause. Hasn't it always been the way? The terrible loss of life in the two major tragedies covered today was, for many, a turning point in the conflict in Northern Ireland. People from all parts of the community came together to put pressure on the paramilitary organisations and the politicians to end this terrible waste of life. The two atrocities marked one of the darkest weeks of the Troubles and are believed to have acted as a catalyst to efforts to build peace. And within a year, the IRA, UDA and UVF had all declared ceasefires. The pub is still open in Greysteel. There is a memorial to the victims outside the building that says, "May their sacrifice be our path to peace." And in October last year there were moving scenes, as the 25-year anniversary of both attacks was marked with a number of moving events to remember all of those who had lost their lives or otherwise suffered as a result of the terrible events a quarter of a century before. There were many moving tributes, but among those who spoke was Adrian Moyne, whose dad was killed at the Rising Sun pub when Adrian was just 15. He said, "My dad was a good man. He taught us right from wrong. He taught us to help others. He taught us we have choices in life." There was a huge sense of community here in Greysteel. The attack could have brought a negative change to around here, but it didn't. We could have put a negative spin on all this, but we followed my dad's example and we chose to look at it in a positive way. I don't pretend that it wasn't hard. Our childhood stopped in a very public way. There were times we stumbled, but those who carried out these murders never broke us. They could never break us. They never stopped us for a second. They achieved nothing. Their only success was making us stronger and more determined. Thank you for listening to this episode of the UK True Crime Weekly podcast. To talk about this episode or any other aspect of UK True Crime, please join our Facebook group. And to support the show, please head to patreon.com/UK True Crime, where you can listen to 25 bonus episodes and other exclusive content. So that is all from me for now. Next week, exciting news to reveal. No, nothing to do with saunas in Rochdale or the new series of Alan Partridge, but good guesses. So until we speak again next week, take it easy and of course...
You're listening to WHBJ Digital Talk from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, home of Cold War Radio. You can listen live 8 p.m. Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays.
Would you like to voice your patriotism without the threat of being censored or shadow banned? Would you like to contribute to wounded veterans but don't know how? Would you like to communicate with like-minded conservatives without being trolled? If you answered yes, then Red Elephant, rdelephant.com is for you. Red Elephant is the new social media platform that will not censor or shadow ban you, and a portion of your sign-up fee goes directly to the Wounded Warriors Project. rdelephant.com.
One America News Network, your leading source for the latest breaking national and international news. With nearly 4 times as many headlines as the other networks. Straight news, no speculation, no opinion, just the facts. Complete coverage 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. One America News Network, your source for credible news.
The very First Amendment in the Constitution of the United States of America gives us the freedom to express our opinions and ideas in many ways. Speech can be weak, speech can be strong. Speech can be words, speech can be song. Speech can breed love, speech can breed hate. Speech can be poor, speech can be great. There are so many things that speech can be, but above all else, speech must be free. This message is brought to you by the NAB Education Foundation, the Broadcast Education Association, McCormick Foundation, and this station.
Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for listening tonight to WHBJ Digital Talk. Wow, what a powerful lineup. Stick with us, ladies and gentlemen. Enjoy what's left of your evening, and we'll catch you tomorrow on Wednesday with Cold War Radio. God bless. I'm Hutch Bailey Jr. from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Thanks so much. God bless. Jacob Seals, ladies and gentlemen, Jacob Seals, check him out.
Brother Ali.
Apprentice. Now, Corolla, why did your team lose? Now, hold on a second. And by the way... Interrupt this program for Obama to say something. My fellow Americans, I'd like to announce that I'm running for President of America as a black man this time.
I did some time in jail. I did some crime with Michelle. We stole some fried watermelon. Yippee-pity-ki-yay. I'm known to smack up a bitch. I got Kool-Aid in the fridge. I never met my kids. Their real dad is Kanye. Guns, yeah, I sold them. Hoes, tricks, yeah, I told them. Blood splits, yeah, I rolled them. Riding up to homegrown payback. Hey, I just met you, so please don't chase me. My name's Obama. I was born in Haiti.
Ding, 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 ding.
There he sits inside your local coffee shop, sporting a main bun and facial hair. Somehow he believes, although he has no job, that by his 30s he will be a millionaire. M-I-L-L-E-N-N-I-A-L. Gotta love millennials. M-I-L-L-E-N-N-I-A-L. Gotta love millennials. She posts lots of selfies on her Instagram with the quote that's inspirational. Hopes to change the world while wearing yoga pants, armed with her dreams and knowledge of essential oils. M-I-L-L-E-N-N-I-A-L. Gotta love millennials. M-I-L-L-E-N-N-I-A-L. Gotta love millennials. 27 years old, trying to make it on their own. Maybe start by leaving your parents home, but maybe we're just wrong. Criticism isn't easy for their ears. They feel like they know most everything. See, they grew up with undeserved confidence, 'cause they got trophies just for participating. M-I-L-L-E-N-N-I-A-L. Gotta love millennials. M-I-L-L-E-N-N-I-A-L. Gotta love millennials. In a couple of years, we will have to pass the torch. In a couple of years, they will be in charge, and one will be our president. Oh no. M-I-L-L-E-N-N-I-A-L. Gotta love millennials. M-I-L-L-E-N-N-I-A. Please pray for millennials.
No. Before we do that, I'm gonna take you to the bridge and drop you off into some funk.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's it for tonight. Stay tuned for CPAC coverage tomorrow night. Actually, no, not tomorrow night. Thursday night. Tomorrow night, Jack and I will headline the program. Hope you enjoyed everything we had on tonight. Man, what a lineup. My goodness, ladies and gentlemen. Wow. All right. I'm Hutch Bailey Jr., deep down in the bunker. And that's my handle everywhere on social media. Catch you tomorrow. God bless.
Thank you. Let us pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.